Let's call the meeting to order.
Pictures.
It's all right.
Public service.
Yeah, Christmas is coming too.
Please stand for Pledge of
When it
Allegiance.
gets quiet, hey, when it gets quiet,
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yo, was this something you said?
both sides. Good.
Item number 3, adoption of the agenda.
Mono adopts the agenda.
Support Van Sickle.
Please vote.
Van Sickle, yes.
Motion passes 11-0.
Item number 4, approval of the minutes.
So moved by Nard.
Please vote.
Van Sickle, yes.
Motion passes 11-0.
Item number 5, public participation. Is there anyone here from the public that would wish to speak on anything that's on the agenda? Only on the agenda. At the end of the meeting, you can speak on any issue after we've conducted our day's business. Anyone from the public? Third time, no one from the public. Public participation is closed. We go to item number 6. I'd like to combine 6A, B, C, and D.
So moved.
Motion to full board, second. Please vote.
No, we don't vote.
We're gonna have a discussion first.
Discussion first, Chair.
I'm sorry. Discussion. Vicki, go ahead. You are on the time.
Awesome. All right, so what you have in front of you is a request for a budget amendment. This is to approve a contract through a vendor called Benevate. They do business as Neighborly. Now, when we brought on the CDBG program into planning and economic development, one of the major tasks was understanding how we were doing our record keeping with that program. I did ask our program manager, Stephanie Burgess, to take a look at what software is out there that can actually help us with the entire CDBG program. She did some due diligence and we found this vendor. What they've provided for is a scope of work, cost of $39,000 for the first year, and then $27,000 moving forward. This particular line item would be funded through the IT capital budget.
Any questions?
Yes,
Mr. Romano?
thank you. Hi, Vic. It's, well, I think it was last year, the year before, we had an amendment set in there for, was it CBG money for snow removal and senior grass cutting? And I think I had that amendment set in because Sterling Heights was opt out of it or something, or the funds were stopped, or the grant was stopped. Do you remember?
So I'm not familiar with that. I'm gonna refer to Stephanie. Do you?
What's this mean, JP? What's that shaking your head? Does that mean
He
yes?
says-
Does that mean it's still included? Oh, I'm sorry, Steph?
That's Stephanie.
That was the grass and snow program.
Yes.
Yes, that's being run through Macomb Community Action right now. So Macomb Community Action is getting funds from Sterling Heights for grass cutting and snow removal. But that's separate, it'll be run through MCA.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you, Chair. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Mr. Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. Vicki, you said this is on the IT capital improvement.
It would be the fiscal year capital projects for 2023.
And then going forward, what would the cost be?
$27,000, and
So
that
what-
would cover 10 licenses.
So would that be on the current capital improvement budget going forward? Because I don't see it on here going forward for future years.
I believe so. I know I've got, yeah, there you are.
Maintenance? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
No other speakers? Please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Item B, Vicky?
That is in regards to budget item A, so that is the statement of work.
Any questions? Please vote.
Chair, I think you made the motion on the floor was A through D, I believe.
Right. Okay, let's continue then with, go to C, please.
C is a budget amendment. This is in regards to a grant that we received, some additional funding for our Industry 4.0 efforts as an additional $29,411.76.
Any questions? Vicky, item D, please.
Awesome. And then this is a agreement amendment to the 2021 Annual Action Plan. This is to reconcile and reallocate funding for the program. Whenever you have a substantial update, you've got to take that to the board for an amendment.
Any questions? If not, please vote. No, we didn't. On A, B, C, and D? Okay.
Thank you.
Item E, please. This would be consolidating item E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, and O, P, Q, R, S, T, T.
Whole alphabet.
Brian.
Motion to approve items E through M.
Support.
Brian.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dealing with item E, it is a Michigan Department of Transportation contract for work on 33 Mile Road, Low Plank to M19 Main Street. Basically looking at approval of this MDOT contract to perform that work next year.
Any questions? If not, item F, please. Brian?
Item F is a cost share agreement with Chesterfield Township for the reconstruction of 23 Mile Road between the railroad tracks and Gratiot. That is a county cost of $550,205. Seeking that approval of that cost share agreement, once again with Chesterfield Township.
Any questions? Don?
Brian, is that the last link of 23 Mile Road, or how many more sections do we have to go?
The last link, as far as the widening,
Yes.
is being completed this year, and that was the section between Card and Romeo Plank. So we've paid fully the main line on the southbound side. We're filling in gaps and filling in the curb and gutter on the south side. Are yet to have that open, but by year's end, we'll get that section open fully to traffic this year. So it should be 5 lanes all the way across from Gratiot to the west, beyond Mound. So this is a section of failed pavement. We did kind of a Band-Aid a couple years back. We milled thin surface off the existing surface and put a thin lift overlay of asphalt. Did minimal base repair to get us by for a couple, 2-3 years so that we could get to the reconstruct, which is going to be started next year.
This process has taken about 30 years to get all the way across the county.
It's been a process, but
I'm not complaining about it. I mean, it's got to start somewhere. Incremental progress is what I'm saying.
for sure.
We got it through across, and we got a major thoroughfare all the way across our county that you can get through.
Yes, it'll be a nice
Short
alternative
order.
to Hall Road as far as the 5-lane cross section just to the north.
Okay, anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? If not, item G, please.
Once again, this is a cost share agreement with the City of Fraser and City of Roseville for intersection of Kelly Road and Masonic, complete reconstruction. Total cost of $570,875. That would be split 50-50. 50% would be the Department of Roads, $285,437, with the remainder being split between Fraser and Roseville.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Brian. They currently have one half of Kelly Road done now. So they're gonna expand the other half, and this is to take it through the intersection at Masonic and Kelly. Is that the plan here?
This is a separate project. The one that's being under construction this year, unfortunately with some contractor issues and delays, we're going to have to span this year and first part of next year to finish that project that's currently ongoing. 15 in Kelly will be part of that reconstruction project, the intersection. This is separate from that. This is Kelly and Masonic.
Well, they're doing Kelly to Groesbeck now, so you're gonna combine Kelly and Masonic to go through the intersection into Roseville? Is that the plan?
Yes, we're going to completely redo the intersection of Kelly and Masonic. Kelly and 15 was part of the project we're doing currently.
That's gonna go into next year?
Yes, unfortunately.
That's gonna make them happy. Thank you.
Yeah, it happens sometimes, unfortunately.
Why Roseville and Frazier? That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Any other concerns, questions? If not, item number H, please.
Once again, cost share agreement with City of Sterling Heights and Clinton Township for the rehabilitation of Moravian Drive from Shaner to Garfield. This would be a typical mill and fill, base repair, new paving surface, new striping, shoulders. Total cost of $5,760,000. County cost is $2,880,000 or 880,000. Seeking approval of this cost share with Sterling Heights and Clinton Township.
Commissioner Romano, please.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Brian.
Afternoon.
As you know, we've talked about this before. I better use the microphone, otherwise Luke's going to yell at me. One half of Moravian is in excellent condition, and then the other half, which would be the east side, is the one that really. So are you doing all of Moravian? Are you going to tear out everything?
It won't be a complete reconstruct. It's going to be a rehabilitation. So it'll be removing the surface, fixing any pavement repairs, joint repairs as necessary, and then paving over the entire surface from shoulder to shoulder.
What's the difference between rehabilitation and the reconstruction?
Reconstruct is totally removing the whole structure of the roadway and the base material.
In the rehabilitation, you just go over the surface of it?
Surface, do base repairs, pavement patching, joint repairs. Yes, that's.
And when do you anticipate that would be starting?
This would be starting next year in the spring.
Well, there's 12 months in the year. We say, are you telling me beginning of the year?
It depends on the weather and
I
Mother
just
Nature.
have people that are bugging the death out of me.
April, May, sometime in that.
I'm sorry?
April or May.
April, May?
Depends on the weather, though.
And when
When
you have
asphalt plant's
okay.
open, it just depends on weather, Mother Nature, temperatures, snow.
Okay, last question. The cost share agreement that you have with municipalities, usually the county, what determines when the county pays less than half or more than half?
It depends on the designation of road. If it's a primary road that runs through communities, that cost share is a 50-50 split.
Right?
When they're considered local roads, that's a 60-40 split, which 60% would be on the community, 40% would be on the Department of Roads for the county.
That's all I got, Chair. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Brian, I live in that area there. So you're saying from Shaner to Moravian
Shaner to Garfield, that stretch between Shaner and
to
Garfield.
Garfield.
Yes.
Is that road in that shape right now that needs to be totally done?
Once again, it's not a total reconstruct, but yes, the surface is deteriorated to the point where this is a appropriate fix for this location, basically from Shaner to Garfield. Yes.
Is it more closer to Shaner than to Garfield where it really needs reconstruction?
It's pretty consistent throughout the entire cross section, basically from Shaner to Garfield.
Didn't seem to be that bad.
I know the communities, obviously, as part of their request also. We obviously do outreaches annually to each community as far as their wants and needs. And this was determined as both communities want and desire to do this section between these roadways.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Brian.
Afternoon.
Couple times you've mentioned joint repair. Joint of what?
A lot of our pavements, even though they might be overlaid with asphalt, there's a concrete pavement underneath. They might have been overlaid previously. Once we mill off the surface of asphalt, typically we get down into the concrete section that has joints. So we fix the joints because they're deteriorated to the point where they won't sustain. When you pave over them, that will reflect through and it will be a detriment to the new paving
Oh,
surface.
okay.
So it depends on the cross section, but
They like fasten them together or something?
no, we'll either mill out the joint or use a backhoe with a ripper tooth and put new asphalt in the joint to make it more sound.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome.
Seeing to be no other speakers, item number I.
Item I would be, once again, another cost share agreement with City of Fraser. This is for the reconstruct and widening 2 to 3 lane from Garfield Road from 14 to 15 mile. Total cost $7,040,000. County costs $1,269,125. This is a federally funded job, so we have 80% federal participation with the remaining 20% split 10 and 10 between Department of Roads and City of Fraser.
Any speakers? If not, item J, please.
Item J, cost share agreement with Washington Township. They had received TAP grant funds for a 26-mile road pedestrian bridge. There will be zero cost to the county. This is a pass-through project where the community received TAP grant funding. We are the fiduciaries of the Act 51 funds that come through. So seeking approval of this cost share agreement with Washington Township. Total cost is $1,082,134.
No speakers. Item number K, please.
Item K, once again, cost share agreement with Bruce Township and Washington Township. This is for the intersection improvement of 32 Mile and Eldred. Total cost of $1,394,000. County cost is $697,000. This is a 50-50 split, with Washington actually absorbing 30% of that, a half, and Bruce 20%. This is for improvements, adding a signal and improvements structurally to the intersection itself.
No speakers. Item I, please.
Item L would be cost share agreement with Clinton Township for 18-mile road rehabilitation between Hayes and east of Garfield Road. Total cost of $3,584,000. County cost is $1,433,600. This is a local agency project. This is considered a local road, so the split would be 60%, 40%, 60% on the communities, or on the community, and 40% to the Department of Roads. Seeking approval of that cost share with Clinton Township.
No comments.
Last one, item M, cost share agreement with the City of Richmond for rehabilitation of 33-mile road from Lowe Plank to M19. That was the initial MDOT contract. So this is the cost share agreement. As said, for the project, total cost $622,952, with the county cost being $45,372.
No comments. A motion receive and file.
The motion to refer to full board.
Full board.
I think you had a motion and support, did you not?
Yes. Yes.
Got one more. You got item M.
Through him, right. We did him. He just did him.
Yeah, that was the cost share with Richmond, City of Richmond.
Motion passes 12-0.
Point of information, we're missing a cost share agreement with Bruce Township and Washington Township. Item M. Brian, you said your last one was L, our last one's M on our agenda.
He just did him.
No.
Brian, did you address the Bruce Township?
32-mile road.
Yeah, that was a cost share agreement, Bruce Township and Washington Township, 32-mile and Eldred project. That was improvements, that was the one with including a new signal and improvements to the structure of the intersection itself, the right turn lanes and such.
No speakers? Please vote. Please voted, so, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 7, correspondence is Macomb Work Zone Lane Closure and Construction Update, November 13th, 2023.
Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
At this time, I'm very pleased to turn this over to Mrs. Sabatini.
Bet you are. Okay, next item on the agenda for Finance Audit and Budget Committee, this is going to be budget reviews. First item is 9A and 9B, Planning and Economic Development and Public Works. I need a motion to receive and file both 9A and 9B. So moved by Nard. By Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Grout. Okay, first is Vicky.
I'm back, thank you.
Commissioners, we're going to be working on page C48 first, and then we'll go to the Special Revenue Fund pages D3, 4, 11, and 12. You have the floor, Vicki.
Awesome. So we have provided just a brief presentation on what our department has been working on. You know, a lot of this will carry over into our 2024 budget, so I just want to lay some of the framework on our accomplishments. Our mission is not just the mission of planning and economic development. Our mission is for the county as a whole, looking at how do we grow, attract, and retain economic investments, as well as create that quality of life for anyone who chooses to live in Macomb County. You know, our mantra is live, work, play, and you'll see that consistently being played out with all of our different program areas. For those that may not be aware, there are 5 different program areas that report directly under the umbrella of planning and economic development. I'll go over those real quickly. When we look at our economic development, this is the easiest one for us to measure when we look at economic impact. We had a very strong year. We still have, 6 weeks left of the 2023 fiscal year, but a lot in the pipeline. When we look at millions of investment, about 764 reported directly through the assistance of our office. That's about 100 million more than we saw last year. We did highlight some of the big projects that came to Macomb County. These either came through us as attraction or retention, where they've chosen to expand their operations within the county. On top of this, the economic development team, headed up by our program director, Jack Johns, we hosted 5 workshops. I've come to you quite a few times talking about these budget amendments coming through these Industry 4.0 grants. It is having a local impact. When we look at the workshops that we hosted, about 500 businesses have attended those workshops. I know we did have Don in attendance at quite a few of those. We were also able to distribute about $345,000 in equipment reimbursement grants. So not only are we educating our businesses on this new revolution of technology, we're able to help maybe offset some of the cost of that equipment. Our Parks and Natural Resources have also had a very strong year. A lot of grants coming to us in the area of sustainability. When we look at the number of tree plantings, we actually put on here a nice little map to kind of showcase where in the county we saw these tree plantings. A total of 11 of those tree plantings occurred in 23, 20,000 trees. When we look at increasing the tree canopy and quality of life, this is very instrumental in that. We also accomplished and completed a agricultural strategic plan. That's when we look at our 20% of farmland in the county, making sure that we also have preservation as one of our top priorities. For the blue economy, we completed our Lake St. Clair coastal study. We actually got a number now looking at the economic impact of Lake St. Clair. The study came in at 1.6 billion, but I will tell you, Jerry Santoro will say it's probably closer to 2 billion when we look at investment, people using the lakes, and all the resources that they provide along that waterway. And then also we had a grant in which we were to look at some of the history in the county through the hidden history of Lake St. Clair, and more to come in 24 on that. For mapping and data services, all throughout this PowerPoint presentation, you're going to see these maps. That is produced by our department. We've got some individuals on staff that are very talented in capturing data and trends, and then being able to showcase that visually through our data and mapping services work group. Our GIS system is very strong. When we came to you a few years ago saying we've got to provide investment into our GIS, I think this really truly showcases that when you look at the number of unique users utilizing the site, as well as the 350,000 map views. So it's being used at our local municipalities. A lot of our partners are using that, as well as individuals. We did complete some of our upgrades to the platform as well, when we look at the parcel upgrades. All right, so CDBG, when we look at our community development, CDBG, moving that back into planning and economic development was a major milestone for us. You know, that was, you know, a department that resided with us 10 years ago, went over to Macomb Community Action, was good there. You know, we've got a goal to make that a great program, that good to great. Having that team fully staffed is very helpful. You guys just approved an amendment to help us with some of the technology to get that system really efficient within our department. Amanda Minato, she helps oversee our community planning efforts. You know, we do provide planning and community assistance to some of our smaller municipalities. We've also been able to really close out the EPA grant, looking at pursuing some additional funds. That did have a strong impact when we look at the number of projects that came through under that. And then when we look at the investments of what came in based on the EPA funds. And then on top of that, her department also helped oversee the broadband study, which we're excited in February. We're looking at providing some updates on the survey and where that's headed. We also completed an EV study working with our tri-county area with Oakland, Wayne, and City of Detroit. Provide some additional trail implements as well as the forecasting of the materials management, which is previously known as solid waste. So you guys will be hearing definitely a lot more of that in '24. Our marketing and communications team. So you guys have been on our website. Today we did our soft launch of the macombgov.org website. If you have not had an opportunity, definitely check it out. We have a strong goal here to make this an award-winning website for the county. Even without that update, we saw a huge increase in uptick in number of individuals and users hitting the website. We're able to actually track where those users are coming from, but about a 400% increase. What we know is that they're coming to our website and that they're staying on our website, but they're also clicking 4 additional pages. So they're looking for more information. So now that we have this major overhaul in place, we anticipate we'll probably see that web traffic continue to increase. When we look at growing the population of Macomb, that talent attraction, this is all part of that campaign to have people come visit our website, learn about what Macomb County is, and maybe perhaps make Macomb their home. In addition to the digital, we also have some newsletters, Momentum magazines. Those are physical prints that do go out to our subscribers. And then we look at the top viewed websites. We did provide them for you as well. Fueling the talent pipeline, this was an effort that actually started when John Paul Ray was the director of this department. It continues today very strongly. When we look at the impact with our youth, trying to really engage them, planting that seed that maybe perhaps their career, their life remains here in Macomb County, even if they go off to college. And we do that through different methods, working with our partners at MISD, as well as some of the local school districts. One of the programs is our Ford NGL, where we are the convening organization for both Romeo as well as Centerline. We did take on a child care grant. This was an effort really pushed through from the state, looking at some of the child care challenges that currently is underway and that is anticipated to close out in June of next year. But we did celebrate 10 years with our Manufacturing Day efforts. That's a big milestone for us. When we talk about impact, 16,000 students visited modern day manufacturers over the past 10 years. And we are now hearing about some of those successes coming through with that. Their eyes were open to jobs and career opportunities. They ended up either getting internships, co-ops, or full-time employment and are currently working here in Macomb County. And that kind of leads us to where we are today when we look at the specific ask for our 2024 budget. The majority of the funding for planning and economic development covers our salaries. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the talent that we've got on our staff. When we talk about all the projects and the accomplishments, it's due to the fact that we have phenomenal people that work within our department. But we also have a need for programming dollars to get a little bit creative around that. This year, you'll look at our budgets, $300,000. Typically, these dollars are more utilized towards match. For example, if we bring in a grant for, let's say, $100,000 and provide that 10% match, it's a nice drawdown. But we did break it down for you, and if you have any questions, I can definitely stick around for that.
Thank you, Vicky. Commissioner Perna.
I just got two minor questions. How do you track those that jobs are open? How do you track that?
So we have various databases where we can look at the number of current open jobs in Macomb County. We can also look at employment rates. You know, right now we're sitting at 3% employment. Just before I came to this meeting, our data specialist basically told me our labor participation rate is now at 64%, and that is a 3% increase from last month. And having those numbers in front of us tells us that you've got people that are actively now re-engaging the workforce. So that is a very positive sign for Macomb.
And second question, on the aerial photos, is that for businesses only, or can individuals ask for an aerial photo of their subdivision or their address?
Oh, any individual can do that. That information is available through our GIS. You know, at one time, individuals would come to the 7th floor and purchase maps from us. We've kind of seen that side of the business dwindle because that information is available online through our GIS portal.
There's a cost for that as well?
If they want the map printed, there's a cost for that.
But if an owner of a property in Roseville wants an aerial shot, they can ask for that, you'll do it, and that's no cost?
If they need it printed, there's a cost.
There's a print. The photo, there's no charge for that?
If it's available digitally online, they can print it, you know, via their home computer.
All right, thank you.
Got it.
Commissioner Nard.
Hello. When I look at these, I see a lot of cities and stuff in the county that is getting targeted and having things done. And I'm just wondering, is there something that I can do so that the southernmost portion of the county can get involved? A lot of times the residents ask me about different things that goes on in the county, and I always brag about the county because you know, the people that work in our county is great. We're number one. I know this, and I'm happy about that. But I just want to be able to take something back to Warren in specific, because I do cover Center Line as well. But I want to take something back to Warren because I don't know if we have a new administration now. We got Lori Stone now. So I want to know, is there something that I can do so that I can encourage the municipality there to join the county and to take part in what's going on? Because even when I go to SimCog, I see every other city in the county getting things, and Warren I never see our name, but we're the largest city in the county. So what is it that I can do as the commissioner there to stimulate that part of the county to join?
Absolutely. It really comes down to partnership. You know, when we push out like our strategic plan, it looks at it from a countywide perspective, but then when you get down to that local level, it gets very unique to the community. So absolutely embrace the opportunity to work with Warren Centerline. When I first applied here, you know, I had asked the planning director, where is the greatest need? And he said, Warren and Centerline. So just know like that does sit near and dear. You know, we definitely want to be able to see these cities continue to grow and flourish.
Okay, because that's the first thing that Mayor-elect Stone said to me was, I need to talk to you because I want to make sure we get a relationship with the county. So hopefully you'll be hearing from us really soon this time. But yeah, I really enjoyed your presentation, and I'm happy to see all the things that are happening because I brag about the county and all the officials all the time. So it's good to see new things happening.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Vicky. Just a quick question on contract services. For 2023 amended, it was at 400,000. Then the recommended for 24 drops down 50,000, and then the forecast bumps back up to 400,000. What's the reason for that 50,000 change?
So number one, the off years are aerial photography. Like this is a year that we're going to bring back aerial photography. Next year we won't have that. We know with the solid waste plan, that's one where it is now a legitimate need for the county to invest in it. There's probably going to be at least 6 figures we're going to look at for a consultant, where we've been very fiscally conservative with bringing on a consultant. So anticipate seeing greater need for contractual services.
Okay.
In those 2 areas.
Thanks, Vicky. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Brown.
Yep. Thank you. Your department does a lot with a little. I mean, we got such a variety of programs, from water quality, environment. we're doing so many good things that are initiatives. Partnering, is what you said earlier, is what it's all about. To Commissioner Nard's question, we go when we're asked. We don't push ourselves in on anybody. We come if we're asked. And when we're asked, they're a big help. You're a plus, you're value added to the county. You give value to the county tax dollar. Your department does a lot of positive things for everybody in this county, trying to, from recreation to employment, and trying to bring new investment and all the rest. It raises everyone's boats in the county. I mean, you do a lot with a little, and there's so much more that could be done. They only have so many staff to do so many things, though, and they're doing a lot, and we ask them to do a lot, and the communities appreciate the work they do, because it makes the county look good. It makes all of us commissioners, because we're the ones funding it, look good, because the administration's managing them, and they're doing a good job. How many total employees do you have in your department?
Including CDBG, when we are fully staffed, we'll be at 37.
37. How many employees in Oakland County?
So their CDBG is a little bit different, but there's 60 within
60.
their community development and affairs.
And
Economic
Wayne,
development.
do you have an idea how many Wayne County has? That's probably not even off the charts. It's probably,
I don't.
who knows? Yeah. They're doing a lot. I say this because we're doing a lot with a little there. And we appreciate the work that all your staff does, because it's noticed, it's recognized, it's making a difference. And I appreciate it. And, I fully support, that's why your information technology request today and the things you brought forward. No one had any questions, because they see the value and they have confidence in the leadership there in the department that's implementing these programs. So, there's a lot of people demanding a lot of issues in this county. A lot of people want more staff to do this and that. Everyone could do a lot more with a lot more staff, including this department, which some could say is probably the most important department as far as outreach to the community, because they're helping the overall economy try to generate more activity. So I'm bullish on the department, and I'm glad what you're doing, and you have my continued support. Thank you.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Vicki. First, I wanted to say thank you for your involvement with the Roseville guys on that Downtown Development Authority. All the suggestions that came forward are being presented to the council, I believe, tonight. So I really appreciate that. But the question I had, you made the statement the county's going to have to invest more into the solid waste plan. I saw that on one of the slides that you had shown. Do you get involved with organizations like the South Macomb Disposal Authority or the transfer stations in Warren and Roseville? Or what exactly is the role that we play in that?
Right, so one of and this is really coming down from the state, so when we look at our solid waste plan, the last time that was updated, probably dates back to the last amendment in 2014. And so part of that process, when you bring on that consultant, is to do a major overhaul and update to that master plan. And then you bring in your partners, you bring in your public for all that intake and processing. So it is an entire process. So I would imagine that would be part of it once we have that consultant on board.
So are we looking at updating the plan? Is that what I heard?
There definitely needs to be an update to the master plan, the solid waste master plan. But then there also are some regulations coming down from the state of Michigan where we're gonna have to continually monitor. These are positions that we haven't had to do in the past. We are following, what the state is pretty much demanding at this point, but there's gonna be requirements, reporting requirements, and someone's gotta be able to do that job.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. I was very happy to see or hear you say that in regard to solid waste, that always, of course, perks my ears up, because we have to have our water clean. So any entity that's going to work with that is very important to us. And I'm very interested to see exactly what you mean by that, and we'll find that out as time comes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Vicki, a couple questions. Conferences and training, that's going up by a good chunk, up to 67.5 for next year. That's the largest that line item has seen, I think, ever. And I saw your list here on the supplementals. It's like 20-some events or trainings. Are those all anticipated to be participated in?
Right, so we are doubling down on our traction efforts. You know, when COVID hit, we really pulled back on a lot of our travels internationally as well as nationally. We want to really get back in that game, as we're watching the global environment. You know, there's definitely some prime opportunity for us to be drawing and attracting some of these global companies to Macomb County. And so you're seeing that increase there. And then also when we look at our staff, providing professional development opportunities really is a great retention tool, and we try to keep those local.
So on average, those conventions or conferences, how many of our employees go to them, participate?
It varies. For example, our planning staff, a lot of them are AICP, which means that they've got to continuously go in and get those continuing ed credits to remain certified. So you've got that team. Our GIS team really building out their credentials and certifications. There's some new programs that are rolling out where we're now members of a team called EURISA, a membership organization. So there's some best practices and learning that's happening within those organizations. So some of it's internal, but some of it is external as well.
Okay. Personnel, I know last year you needed a planner. It looks like that's still vacant. Are you having the same challenges as many other departments in finding employees?
We are. In fact, you know, this last round, that's probably one that we're going to extend the opening to see if we can find the right talent and the right fit for our department.
Okay. Seeing no other questions for page C48. Commissioners, are there any questions on the capital improvement plan? There's 3 items for planning, which are pretty minimal. Okay, seeing none there, we'll go to page D3. Questions here, commissioners? Commissioner Lucido?
So I do have one question on D3, and that was contract services. I noticed there's a very large jump. If you could just maybe explain that real briefly.
Sure. That has to do with our home ARP program. So I think you're going to see this one. I believe we're going to see this one right out to 2030. Is that correct? Yeah. And it just has to do with some additional funds that came in where we're going to probably be bringing on some contractual services to offset the program.
All right, thank you. That's all I have to.
Vicki, the only question I have on this page in regards to your transfers in from the general fund, this is the first year that we see a transfer in for the general fund. Maybe this is a question for Steve or finance, but we've never had a transfer in on the grant side.
Correct. This is a request, you know, that I specifically requested this year. When we look at the CDBG program, there are limitations to what the individuals on that program can and cannot work on. Everything has to be 100% grant funded. So if I want a CDBG employee attend our partner meeting, unfortunately they cannot. When I look at being able to build out that staff to understand what's happening in the community, I've got to be able to you know, rely on the resources of pulling them out of the grant for a minute so that they can perhaps learn in a different environment. So this would be offsetting those hours.
Okay. And is that just, you have what, 6 employees in this block grant?
Correct.
So that would handle all 6?
Correct.
Okay, seeing no other questions on D3, D4. We'll go to D11 and 12. Only question I had was in regards to the MI Strategic 14.0 implementation. Looks like that was the largest grant that we are no longer getting going forward. What was the result of that grant specifically?
The Industry 4.0 grant. So that provides up to a $25,000 reimbursement for businesses who want to purchase equipment or software that help upgrade their systems or their lines on their floor. And, you know, a lot of it, we look at all the applications and determine, you know, whether or not this is a suitable project for the 25,000. The state of Michigan did pursue a DOE grant, and so we know that even though we may not see the funds coming in through the Industry 4.0, it's going to continue through the DOE grant.
Okay, because looking at grants just going forward, I mean, we took a huge drop from 1.6 million to 177,000. Is that just, those grants are just no longer
A
available?
lot of them were CARES related, so the state of Michigan was able to help support some of our small business programming through the CARES Act.
Got it. Commissioner Brown?
EPA is no longer doing assessment grants.
They are. We missed out by 1 point. It was a highly competitive grant this year, so we're revamping and resubmitting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, seeing no other questions, you are all set.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next is Public Works. We have our Public Works Commissioner, Candace Miller, here to present that budget. It's going to be budget pages C-54 and C-55, Commissioners. And I know Commissioner Miller has a presentation as well, so like.
I do. Thank you so much, Chairman, and to all the Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today and why Norb is setting up a couple of things on the easel. I just have to say something about this article that Commissioner Romano gave me before I stood up here. This is from 32 years ago. This is the article he gave me. It was out of the Macomb Daily, and I was before the County Board of Commissioners. I was much younger, obviously. I was a township supervisor in Harrison Township, and I came up here. Don, you and I are probably the only ones in the room that were around then, maybe. But anyway, I came up here saying, look, Dick Cheney was the defense secretary at the time, and they're going to close Wordsmith under the BRAC, the Base Realignment and Closure Commission. And they've got all these KC-135 refuelers up there, and we need those planes. And I came and made a presentation to this board, and guess what planes came to Selfridge after that? So anyway, I just thought that was sort of interesting. And the more interesting thing is, who was the reporter from the Macomb Daily that wrote the article? Norb France. He didn't even have any gray hair then, you know? And here we are, here we all are. Anyway, okay, thank you to the Public Works Commissioners, like deja vu up here, Joe. Brian and I are going to both present as we normally do. We sort of tag team here. He's going to do all the, you know what, that's not a good spot. Jim Pernin can't even see.
Nobody
Oh,
goes,
that's the
Move that.
Leave it where it's at.
You're a better reporter than you are easel
More to
putter
the
upper.
left, to my left.
You got to move those. Yeah, put that back here. Anyway,
He's got glasses, we can see it.
anyway, how we're going to do this is the way that we normally do it. Brian's going to go through all of the financials, and then really, you know, our department is always, in the 7 years I've been here, is either the lowest or one of the lowest that ever comes before you here. I really do believe in being fiscally conservative. We've tried to hold the line all the time. I think we get about a 3%, 2 or 3% increase this time. So but you know what? We are absolutely committed to what all of you are talking about, what the county executive is talking about, what all of this Board of Commissioners is talking about. This is a very conservative county here in Macomb County. And I think we are all well aware that it is not sustainable for the federal government and the state to keep giving us all this cash to all these local municipalities, right? So that's going to impact all of you. And I know you're all struggling with all the needs that we have here in Macomb County. You're all in the budget season, how much everybody's getting and who they're getting and all of those kinds of things. And we have taken that to heart, and we are very committed to making sure that we are not being a negative impact on your deliberation. So are you looking at okay, there we go. Our mission has been defined. I mean, you always have to have a mission statement, right? And for us, our mission statement really is quality of life. Actually, water quality, really. Water quality equals quality of life. particularly here in Macomb County, where we're so blessed to have all these wonderful natural resources? And then how can we be a critical component of economic prosperity? Because, you know, all of the site plans all over the county from all these municipalities end up coming through our office as well. So we're focused on both of those things. And I think I will just ask Brian to maybe go through the financials. And then really, I thought I would just sort of tell you a little bit about some of the projects. I don't want to talk too long here, but we have, you know, a couple of $100 million worth of projects that are going on that are impacting every one of your communities. So I'll try to be brief, but I'll go through a little presentation of some of the drain work we've done, some of the different sewer rehabilitation projects that we've done, just to give you a sense. I'm not asking for money for that. I just want to give you a little status report. So, Brian.
Thanks, Candace. Real quick, take a look at our budget. It's total $9.7 million. Now, again, 60% of that is in the general fund, funded by the general fund. 40% is funded by the drainage districts. So 5.9 million of that is the general fund. It's called administration, but what that is plan review and soil erosion, and our drain maintenance team, and drain construction, finance group, and environmental resources. 2.4 million budget, that's the wastewater and the mid, which Commissioner Van Sickle sits on that board. That's the staffing for the mid. Again, that's funded by the mid, not the general fund. And then 1.4 million is the pump station, Chapatin. Commissioner Lucido sits on that board. And some of that also gets charged to the Martin, where Commissioner Haw is. So again, those two are 100% funded by the drainage districts. As Candace mentioned, then our general fund impact, general fund, we only increased 3%. And that is one of the lowest increases of any department in the county. Now, of that 3%, 97% was related to employee personnel costs. 3% was higher internal charges, and that's set by the finance department. We did have decreases in all our other cost centers, so savings, and we came in under budget last year as well. There are no new general fund positions. There is one position in the Chapatin Drainage District, funded by them. That's a new pump station operator. And that is something that Drainage District has already adopted its budget, subject to, of course, this Board of Commissioners approval. And that is needed for increased operations and maintenance of all the new assets that we've got going on, not only at Chapatin, but Martin as well. Chapatin, we have the canal, Candace will get into this, canal rehabilitation. We have the in-system storage devices. We have new gates. We have new electrical panels, new generators, switchgear, ventilation system. So there's a lot going on down there in order to improve the water quality by reducing CSOs. So we found that it's going to be cheaper to bring someone on board as opposed to contract out a lot of that operations.
Thanks, Brian. So that pump station operator, as was mentioned, has no impact on the general fund. It's in the drainage districts. But at the end of my presentation, as all of you know, I'm going to talk about one position that I would like you to consider and how I'm going to pay for it. So this is a map that we give you every year of all the different drain projects that we have completed this particular year. You can see that we have 100, well, whole bunch, right? I mean, you can see that they're all over. And then we do try to really make sure that we spread this money around, that it's in all the different communities. And the communities have really embraced this program. I mean, we have gotten an enormous amount of drain work done in the last 7 years, where, as many of you know, the drains were not really, there was a lot of work to be done. How about that? Okay? There was a lot of work to be done, and there's still plenty out there. So this is a match program, which is in this budget here again. We have 750 drains, actually. It was interesting when I first took this job, people said, you know, you have about over 900 drains. And I said, well, that's interesting. You know, we started looking at them and, well, no, maybe there's not 900, maybe there's 850, you know. I mean, it was really a bizarre thing. Nobody even knew how many drains the county had here. So we had a consultant go through and, you know, we worked with our staff. Anyway, we have 750 drains. So step one, better know what your assets actually are. Where are your drains? So these are just some pictures of some of the before and after in some of the areas. Here's two samples in the Fish Creek in Chesterfield Township. Commissioner Kraft, I know you're very familiar with that, but you can see the nice work our drain crews are doing out there. Then Sterling Heights, a Plum Brook, which is goes on pretty much forever, I think. We've been in the Plum Brook, I think, every year. And we just keep going back to it because that can be a continuing thing. But we've made great progress down there. That's a major drain, one of the few really open drains in Sterling Heights. Then there's one in Roseville, the Rohrbeck extension. Commissioner Haw is very familiar with the Rohrbeck. That was the one that we fixed behind Famous Dave's there that was about ready to have I-94 fall into it. But this is just a sample of some of the preventative things that we do before a heavy rain event. I mean, you know a heavy rain event is coming. You have to make sure you're doing maintenance by all of these major grates so that you don't have flooding and backup. And, you know, this, again, we used to have a lot of flooding, as Commissioner Haw is well aware of all of those condos in Roseville and that whole area there, Little Mac and et cetera. Now we clean this drain. This is right by I-94. It's just an example. We do this all over the county, different places strategically. Then the Glody drain, that's in Macomb Township. Actually, that drain runs all the way around Partridge Creek as well into Clinton Township. We've done a lot of different work there. Again, you just see the before and after. An example in Washington Township, a drain up there, again, the before and after. 5 Points is in Ray Township, before and after. You see the guys put the mulch mat down, and the Vokes drain in Sterling Heights. This one, if you're probably wondering what are you actually looking at, this is an enclosed drain. We have a lot of enclosed drains. All the drains are not open. And you can see all of the sedimentation that's in this drain. And this is one we started at a couple of weeks ago, and we're making great progress in there. And that, you know, the city of Sterling Heights had identified this is an area that had a lot of flooding. No wonder. No wonder. This stuff is in there like concrete practically. Anyway, we're making progress there. Then we show you an example in Harrison Township. One of the taps that comes off the Savan drain. Of course, it was a sinkhole. The sidewalk was collapsing. There's a lot of traffic in that area. I mean, pedestrian traffic, et cetera. So that's fixed. The Lingbaya study on Lake St. Clair that Commissioner Zinner is very familiar with is another part of the funds that we have been using for the match program. In this case, we're matching the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Interestingly enough, I was with the Army Corps last week about the Lingbaya study, and I don't know what's going to happen here, if you want to know the truth. I wasn't very optimistic with, I mean, they're basically saying, I mean, they're going to continue to look at this, but, you know, it's algae blooms, which is happening all over the Great Lakes and happening in inland lakes all over the country, et cetera, et cetera. They think it's climate change, you know, is it CSOs, whatever. That'll be the next step of this, but they see a lot of this around the country in different areas. So we think it's so shocking, but really they're not very shocked by it. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. We're in constant contact with them and following up on it all the time. The Clinton River cleanout is something that we started last year with all of your help. And I just wanted to give you a couple of pictures of removing these blockages. We actually, we took out about 70 tons of woody debris out of the Clinton River, which would end up, you know, happily finding its way down the Clinton River over the spillway and out into Lake St. Clair, you know, with a lot of negative impacts of that. So I know Commissioner Wallace was out with me one day. We were at Shadyside, and I think we have a picture by Shadyside there in Mount Clemens. So we were, you know, all over in the Clinton River, the Utica, Shelby, Clinton, etc. The next slide shows you a lot of these different wastewater projects that we have going on. As I say, I'm not here asking for money. I just want to sort of tell you the scope of all the different projects that we have going on, with a heavy emphasis on reduction of combined sewer overflows. So you can see a number of these projects that have happened down in Chapaton. And essentially what has happened there is we've reduced the CSOs. They're already in the 30 percentile. our big canal rehab project is going to reduce them by somewhere in 30 to 40%. The in-system storage project that is in East Point and then runs down into St. Clair Shore is going to reduce them by about another 12 to 15%. So we're making huge progress there. Martin, we're doing a lot of different things down there as well. The Jefferson Relief Interceptor that you see there is something that, again, that's 20 million of the 25 million. 20 million is half of the 40 million that this board granted to our department with the ARPA funds. And this is going to be a SEMSD project, which is going to reduce the CSOs in the Martin facility by over 50%. That's going to be in 24, we hope to break ground. In the mid, the Macomb Interceptor Drainage District, that Commissioner Van Sickle sits on all those drain boards, so he is well aware of all of this. We are just trying to fix everything we can fix, and it needs it. Segment 5, which is that's it's in Sterling Heights in the ITC corridor. That's our major interceptor. That's the nexus of both the Oakland interceptor and the Macomb interceptor, and it is a huge project. Hope to be done maybe in the spring. Segment 6 is right at the it runs down 15 Mile Road as well, which is where the interceptor runs, and then it goes north at Garfield, and we're well on our way to getting ready. You see the big pieces of Hobos. We call that the Hobos pipe. That's along 15 Mile Road there. That's about to go into the ground, hopefully, shortly. So that we've run into some different things there, mostly just because of what they have found underground there. But anyway, we're doing 21 in Garfield. We just relined. Commissioner Sabatini was asking me about that. That was sort of an interesting project. Rather than digging a big hole, which we call a shaft, down 40 feet or whatever to get to the interceptor, we used something called spiral wound, which looks like a big slinky, and we just put it down a manhole and grouted it all in place under there. And that was, I don't want to show you the pictures of what that looked like. And then, some other things. I don't want to keep going on here, but we are really rocking and rolling in this department. We have a lot of things going on, and Lord knows we need to do it because we need to fix them. The next slide is showing you some pictures of some of these projects that we're doing to reduce CSOs. And of course, again, we are all totally committed to water quality in Macomb County. And that means we have to buck up, right? We got to buck up to do these projects. And we've been, as you know, you gave us, this board gave us $40 million of ARPA money, which we're very appreciative of. I'd like to think I've been pretty successful in getting other funds. We got a $72 million ARPA earmark out of the state legislature. Our congressional delegation has been very helpful. Our current state delegation, just in the last budget, got us another $5 million to put to the Jefferson pipe. So we've been doing pretty good getting cash. So it means that we don't have to increase rates on the ratepayers for all these projects that we're doing. So we can all take a lot of credit for that. And then no more sinkholes. Just in the upper left-hand corner, you can see, I think this is a picture that was taken before all the Hobos was delivered. So that is in the ITC corridor, right at 15 Mile, across from the high school there. You see all of that Hobos pipe. It's just stored there right now. We just have stored, we ended up, I think we got about 350 sticks. We call them sticks, right? They come in 20-foot sections of this Hobos. It's just an amazing amount of Hobos. It's all going to be in the ground here pretty soon. The next picture, I'm almost done here, no more sinkholes. That one in the upper left, that's actually at 21 in Garfield, before we put in the spiral wound. Spiral wound. I'll get it out there. You can see the difference, and you can see what it looked like. And some of these things, I mean, we were looking today, we had our staff meeting this morning, we were looking at some pictures of some of the interceptor by Garfield, 15 in Garfield. And I'm just going to tell you, you got to see those pictures because you cannot sleep at night. I mean, our guys were saying, it's not even hardly safe for these guys to go in that pipe. That's how bad this pipe is. And hopefully we're going to get that fixed here. quickly before we have another sinkhole. I'm not being an alarmist. You look at these pictures, you just go, good Lord. It's amazing. Anyway, we're getting it fixed, right? We say we find them, we fix them. That's our motto. Okay, so the last slide is a position I'd like you to consider. And we have, as many of you know, I think we've been certainly as successful as anybody in getting grants. I mean, we have gotten so many grants for so many things, and we're very aggressive with that. And I mean, within the last 2 weeks, I just got 2 $500,000 grants again. One for the Sterling Relief, another one for the spillway, blah, blah. So we have so many things going on, and I haven't staffed up. I need to have someone to help me with all of these grants. And this, full transparency, this is not a grant-funded position. However, with all of these grants, almost all of them require a match. And how we are matching in lieu of cash is in kind, or just our staff. So it really is very necessary, I think. So this is a environmental specialist, and you know, if you cost it out, it's probably around 90 grand, I think, with all the benefits, et cetera. But my idea here is that we would reduce by $100,000 the drain funds that you've given me for us to pay for this. So, you know, I hope you would consider that favorably. And I'd hope you also consider this. I feel like we have an excellent handle on this department, how we're operating this department, the value add that we're giving to the taxpayers and the ratepayers in Macomb County. And I hope you trust me that this is something I really think I need, or I wouldn't be asking for it. And again, this is how we would intend to pay for it. Because as I said at the beginning, we are totally committed to holding the line on the budget here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for the other side of the entry to pay for the request. That's always appreciated. Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, thank you. It is appreciated. We thank you for that. As you know, the drain project is important to this board. I mean, because it's so needed. I mean, you do an asset management of your system. I think you did one a couple years ago. What % of your sewer system is in good shape as opposed to in need of repair? I mean, do you have any keeping track? You said so much of it's bad, but how much? Are you 30%? Are you 20% through it? Are you 50?
Well, I don't know if I have anything like a percentage. Yeah, that's really why we need the asset management plan, to know exactly.
Well, don't you, is that going on now? Aren't you having, isn't that underway, or hasn't it been done?
We're doing asset management really in 2 different areas. In the wastewater, which is all of the pump stations and, you know, our underground infrastructure, et cetera. And then we are now going to start, with the help of this board, which is in your budget, under the capital improvements, I think, which was, and Brian came up and presented to you. Now we're going to do the asset management for the stormwater side. Stormwater being all of the drains and that. So we don't have that done yet. However, we did get a grant for that. I forget how much. 50% from the Army Corps of Engineers. I have to say, the Army Corps of Engineers, we even had the Army Corps of Engineers give us a grant to do our digitization program. And the guy from the Army Corps last week said, how did we get talked into this? Why are we giving you money for this? I said, well, you know, hard to put price on fun. We're happy to have the cash.
Sure.
But anyway, I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but I guess I could probably try to figure that out.
You come back to us later.
I will.
Curious.
One thing I will say about whether it's good or bad, we have started an incredibly aggressive and on regular schedule inspection right now, inspection program, which was really not being done before. So it's amazing what you can find when you inspect. We were just having we were looking today right across from Lance Cruz Middle School, under Rheinmold there, was a huge gusher we found last week while we were inspecting. I mean, it's probably about this big around, and you see the video, and this is just shooting out. And anyway, today it is fixed.
What's
So,
the percentage of drains that you have repaired or cleaned out? They've been clogged for so long, but we got so many county drains. but you're making progress cleaning many of them out. I appreciate the graph showing where the drains were cleaned in the county. That's real good for us as commissioners to know
Yeah.
where the work's being done.
Right.
But how many more need to be done to get it up to, a good standard, to get them all opened up?
Years and years of work. I would just say that. I don't know exactly the percentage. Now, as you know, how we do this with the 50-50 match is we work with all the local communities as well. And so they normally know, certainly in many cases, better than we do, of what their needs are in their community. So we'll have the local, the township supervisor or the city manager or mayor or whoever identify for us things that need to be done. And so we've been working at it that way. And a lot of it is not, as I say, it's not all open drain. A lot of it is enclosed drain. I'll give you an example. In St. Clair Shores, we're doing it's $150,000 to really inspect something called the Alexander Drain. Because it's because of the configuration of it, they have to bulkhead the drain off by the lake intake. And we're paying 75 grand, and St. Clair Shores just approved 75,000 because it's so important to them. There's a huge area of St. Clair Shores that drains into this thing. So, and some of the different projects that we're doing right now with the enclosed drains, we just had an enclosed drain meeting at 11 o'clock today. So here's just some examples for some of the other commissioners that are not in the northern part. Centerline Relief, the Lorraine Storm Drain in Warren, Shaner Relief, Bear Creek in Warren, the Stevens Relief, blah, blah, blah. I could go through a whole bunch of them here. So some of these, not only have they not been cleaned out, they haven't been inspected, maybe ever. And they were put in the 60s. So before you have a project, you got to take a look at the drain, right? What's needed. So
There's so much work to be done, because this year, especially with all the rain we've had, my phone's been blown off the hook with all of the problems with flooding and drainage. County drains, is it a county drain, is it a road ditch?
Yeah.
How do you drain the field? It's just been one big, we need more. I mean, like I said, there's so many needs in this county, we could use so much more for everything.
Yes.
We're so far behind in the work that needs to be done to really get the county flowing where it needs to be.
It's
And,
true.
I mean, we're making progress, we're making great progress, and our board last year stepped and gave you that additional amount of money for the drain project. And I respect the fact you're willing to shave a little off there to get a person that gets us more money, so, that's probably a good idea, so, but, it's, there's just so much work to be done and not enough money to go around.
It's absolutely true. But on the other hand, we have made a lot of progress in the last 7 years. And particularly in your area, in the northern part, which has been interesting because they got hit, as you know, Macomb Township got hit a couple of times, where you get the localized, not only the amount of precipitation, but the intensity of these rainstorms. Nothing can really keep up with that. And I had when we were at the Farm Bureau, I had a bunch of those farmers say to me, if you hadn't done this drain, that drain, we would have lost our crops. So
We're
might
making
not
incremental progress, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Just like we're doing on the water quality in Lake St. Clair and so many other things around the county. We're starting, things don't happen overnight, they take time, slowly but surely you make progress with what money you've got available. And we're getting it done, unlike other counties we could point to that have done nothing to help with CSOs, so, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to get off track.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. It's actually mind-boggling, Candace, the amount of projects and the diversity of which you're looking at each and every community and what's being accomplished. Most people, all they know is my basement gonna flood, and it's the not in my backyard syndrome. I was at the concert in the park with the mayor, and I looked at that stuff on, I don't even know what you call it, but you and Commissioner Zinner have been talking about it all year long. And
in St. Clair Shores, you mean?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
St. Clair Shores. Is that what they're talking about?
Yes.
Not only is it disgusting, it's the smell. It's
Well, then you can't use the beach.
right.
So
right.
KIP
You
has
cannot
to,
use it.
they got to use a front end loader every spring to pull all that stuff out of there.
It was just
Yeah.
pure ugly,
It
just to
is.
look at it. I thought I just recently read Lansing has passed additional laws going after the polluters in this last session. I don't know if it was the last session or the prior session. Do we engage, assuming that's correct, that there are additional laws and they're looking at punitive action against the polluters? Does your department engage with that scenario at all?
Well, it would depend what kind of pollution or contaminants you're talking about. Now, we have set up, this was another thing. In the past, there was no notification protocol for contaminants being in a drain, in a county drain. So if somebody had an oil spill or, whatever kinds of spills in a county drain, stuff just happily made its way down into the lake finally. We have been very aggressive with a really comprehensive plan. We've worked with the county emergency management agencies and every one of the local municipalities, particularly those that are along the Clinton River or on the North Branch, the Middle Branch, as they're coming through Shelby or Macomb Township or whatever. And so when we see anything, and it's amazing how quickly, and we got a 24-hour hotline set up now, and oftentimes it's a local person that lives there, right? They see something and now they have a place to call. And and we react immediately. We set up the environmental booms and try to, we have a zero tolerance for those kinds of things. But I mean, there's probably other kinds of pollutants that are out there that we don't get. Although one thing we are working on, and we have a grant for that, and we've been here, is our IDEP program, where we just talked today, we think we're going to get 3 new students out of Wayne State for free to come and, oh yeah, I'm so cheap. I keep telling them, this is great for your students. So they're going to come out and help us continue to sample at various locations around the county to see if there's an illegal sanitary tap that goes into a storm drain to stop that. And we've made a lot of progress with that. We've found different, I know I've told you this story before, but one of the first ones that we found when we were inspecting the Stevens relief drain, which comes from East Point into St. Clair Shores and dumped out at Beauregard's Colony Marine in St. Clair Shores there was an entire apartment complex, a condo complex, that for over 30 years, all of their sanitary sewer was going right into the storm drain directly out into the lake. That's just an example. And so, it's not just one thing that is a problem. It's, you just got to find it, fix it, find it, fix it. So.
For the commissioners, if you haven't had a chance, go down 15 Mile Road from Groesbeck to Utica Road and look at the size of those pipes that are out there. It is just amazing at how huge they are. So once again, thank you for all you've done. That's all I have, Chair.
Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't had any calls lately, but I have talked to you or text you or whatever, that the citizens still are trying to, for the people who don't know that, are trying to clean out their areas, what that would be the front yard, because behind the house is the front yard. I had a man call who put a lot of money in cleaning out that area of water. And he said, but I know it's going to just come back. Is there anything that can be done? And I said, I will contact Candace, but unfortunately, I'm sorry. At this time, there's nothing that can be done. And it's hard for me. It's hard for me to say that to these people.
Yeah.
Because I've been to their homes, I've been to these places, and it is literally changing what they expected when they moved there. So I hope something can be done with these blooms, because I'd like to tell you where I'd like to put those blooms, anywhere, and just burn them up. I've said that before, whatever they are. We have to find a way to get rid of this. And I hope Oakland County, I hope the pressure can go to Oakland County to create things that you have done down here that take the 30 and 40% of the situation away. Yes, it costs money, but it does change situations that prevent the problem from being a major problem. It makes a huge difference for society. It makes a huge difference for the water, and it's just every person, every home, it matters. And this, we can only do what we can do.
It's really unfortunate that Oakland County turns a blind eye to just dumping all of these combined sewer overflows on us, as far as I'm concerned. And they will not change their behavior. They didn't want to hear about it anymore. I mean, they hardly even speak to me anymore because I'm always going on about it. They're so angry that we even bring this up. They are permitted by the state of Michigan to do what they're doing, as are we. But, you know, if you think about the treatment, I mean, we're doing this in-system storage, for instance, so we store more so that we can then send it down to Detroit for proper treatment. That's a 3-step process, proper treatment, 3 steps. Combined sewer overflows, most of it is stormwater, of course, after a heavy rain event, but there's sanitary in there, and you just shock it with chlorine. It's a 1-step process, and then you're discharging it. So it's not, we should not be doing that anymore. Good Lord, it's ridiculous. So it's unfortunate that Oakland County won't do anything. And you know, it's they when we have these really heavy rain events, last year they discharged over $2 million of raw sanitary sewage. And this last summer there was an incident where it was over 1 million gallons, 1.5 million. They don't even tell us about it. You know, I'm begging them, could you at least tell us? This stuff is not going out into the lake. It's going right down through the Red Run drain into the Clinton River behind people's homes. People are kayaking in there. Kids are, I mean, seriously, what is happening here? The state says, well, you know, they need to do a better job. No kidding. So anyway, don't get me going on this or I go out of my mind.
Both of us together with Lucido, that's not a good thing to, right now. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Candace, I want to compliment your department. They don't just have one solution for everything. They use the Hobart pipe, they use the epoxy-like spray lining, and then more recently, the spiral wound, which was a new innovation that they found and implemented here and tested. I understand it's working well. So it's good because it gives us more tools in the tool chest and more ability to fix things across the board. Also, you didn't comment on the air handlers that are helping to extend the life of our pipe.
Well, I did put that in there, but I was trying to conclude things. I was looking over at
okay.
Commissioner Romano, who's always telling me, go, hurry up, hurry up. No, I'm kidding.
I'm next. I'm next.
He's got a long question here.
Yeah, we have I think did I put a picture in of the, yeah, it's, yeah, right there. Is that, no, which one? Okay. We have a picture of our, all right, almost to the end. All right. Right under no more sinkholes, is that one from the end? In the bottom right-hand corner is our odor and corrosion facility in Fraser and 15 Mile Road. And this is, you know, for those of you who are in that area or drive through there or what have you, even before I got this job, there was always complaints about odors there. And when you smell sewer odors, what you're smelling is something called H2S, hydrogen sulfide. And so as the flow is agitating, it creates sewer gases. 2 things happen. You sometimes do get an odor. Secondly, it is highly, highly acidic, and it literally eats concrete. It eats it away. And that on the upper left-hand corner, you can see a before picture of what these this big interceptor looked like before we fixed it. But anyway, our odor and control facilities, we are doing one on 15 Mile, which is going to be state-of-the-art, all carbon fiber. Should really eliminate the problem that we've had there for a long time. And secondly, it gets rid of the H2S, so it extends the life and the integrity of the pipes in a big way. We're doing one right on the southeast corner of 21 in Garfield. Commissioner Sabatini and I were talking about that the other day. We are doing one at 26 in Gratiot, back by Concordia, behind, back in there. And then we have another one at our Clintondale pump station, which is at the end of Union Lake in Clinton Township, right when you're going around the S-curve there in 94, you can see our pump station. We're doing one there also. So we sort of placed them strategically. But I appreciate what you're saying about my staff, and I should have said that. I have to tell you what, we feel like we have a great management team and a great staff. Brian and I talk about it all the time. Did you see some of the guys when you come to these, and the people that we have there, when you come to the drain board meetings? I sometimes say, I got a bunch of racehorses around there. Sometimes I rein them back in, right? But a lot of times you just want to let them run. And they have a lot of ideas and they want to be creative. And when you have people that are that creative, you don't do everything right, right? Sometimes you make a mistake. You got to make sure the boss is going to say, okay, you're going to slice your head off. That was a great idea. Well, let's try this, I mean, we are really doing this thing with the spiral wound. I have a hard time getting that out. We're the first, it's the first application in the entire state of Michigan, So we really are, we have some great people there that work for Macomb County and work for the Public Works.
Commissioner, you all set? Van Sickle?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Romano?
Good
I gotta give him
afternoon,
the gears.
Candace.
He's so easy to give the
If
gears
we
to.
give you another 2 hours to talk, could you handle that? And I say this openly.
You better be
When
careful.
you talk about water quality, really, you get everybody's attention. And it should be that. I mean, what else do you have besides water quality? The fact that you maintain Lake St. Clair, and I say you maintain it because you maintain the drains and what goes in Lake St. Clair. I got a couple of softball questions for you, if I may. I'm looking at here, what is a SCADA systems engineer? And why do you need a SCADA systems engineer? And then there's a SCADA system operator. Does the engineer watch the operator?
The SCADA system.
Thank you.
Is
Which
a
stands
very,
for?
it is, what does it stand for? God.
I love
don't
these
really
acronyms.
know.
I love them
always
because
call
you
it
never
SCADA.
understand what they are.
It's computer-aided remote sensing of all of our.
No, it's
Yeah,
SCADA.
I forgot what
Yeah,
the S is.
it's an acronym.
I know that,
This
but I'm
is-
trying to figure out what it
it's-
is.
It's a high-tech
Systems control.
acronym. That's how we keep the riffraff out of the public works business. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
It is a very high-tech computerized system of our entire system, all of our assets. And we have the war room, as we call it, which is down at Chapaton, and you've got a full screen there, which is looking at every one of our pump stations. It's looking at all of our underground. The beauty of this thing now is it's preventative in many ways. So it will, and they also, they all have them on their laptops now. So there's eyes on, a number of eyes on 24/7 on our entire system. And if a pump goes down in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve, which is when the pumps always go down, right? They get a notice and somebody is watching that. And so rather than somebody driving around trying to figure it out, they can pinpoint it immediately and respond immediately. So it's a really critical part of using technology to be able to be on top of everything.
Even though
Is
we
that
don't
correct?
know what it is.
Brian wants to-
Supervisory, control, and data acquisition.
Yeah. And I do
Just
want to
thought
mention, we did bring that in-house and we saved about $100,000 by doing that. They used to contract it out.
So what's the difference between him and the engineer, you've got an operator and an engineer? Is the operator an engineer, is the engineer an operator?
No, the operator is not an engineer, the engineer is the engineer.
And what is
He's
the
the guy
operator?
actually we poached from the company who actually designed the whole system and can fix it. The operator can go out to remote locations and do maintenance.
Okay,
and work.
because I'm looking at the dollar amounts here and I'm trying to figure out what the difference was. The other one you mentioned was a permit systems specialist that you didn't have but added in here for 2020. No, you had them in 2023. No, you didn't have them in 2023, but you wanted them back in 2020. Wait a minute.
That was a reclassification, so it's not an additional position. It was in the budget when the contracts were settled. So it's not an additional.
Okay, this was adopted and the amended.
One thing about the permits that might be of interest, since we're talking about that, we are, and particularly with Vicki and her staff here, we are up with our reviews about 24% from last year. So I don't know, everybody keeps saying that the sky is falling with the economy here, but somehow the people don't want to participate in what the economists are telling them. So we're up about 24% with our reviews, and we have sliced the amount of time, turnaround time, which was about 4 months, down to 2 months. So we're up in the amount of permits that we're, the reviews, site plan reviews, et cetera, that we're doing. Now, we're down a little bit, not much, a couple percent probably, in the soil erosion with new homes. That isn't just an interesting thing. And I think it's because of the mortgage rates, et cetera. So, I mean, there's still a lot going on, but it's not where it was exactly. And it's interesting because some of the bigger builders will tell you that they're having a hard time getting lots, bringing lots online. So I don't know where all of that is going, but it's just an interesting thing. So we do track all of the different reviews that we're doing, how we're doing. We have a whole, dashboard and accountability of who's got what projects. We have a big whiteboard. We're tracking them all, how long it takes to get through the chute and et cetera.
So they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. The pictures help. I think it helps me to see what's actually going on. You can tell me what it is, but when I look at it and see it, it does help tremendously for my part. Anyway, as we all know, you're doing a great job. Don't stop. We appreciate it. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The Commissioners, same thing. I mean, obviously, what you've been able to do in a short period of time has been fabulous. I know when we chatted years ago about the drains, and I asked, how can this board help you even more? And you said, well, if we give you more money, what can you do with it? And that's really what this board says. This is just last year, or this year, I should say, but it's hundreds of drains that we've been able to repair that have been neglected for years, and of which found drains that we didn't even know that we had. So I think that's been great. I think everything you're doing dollar for dollar. And the other thing too with the drains, Commissioners, is that your local municipalities are now putting this in their budgets. And that's a great thing because they're planning ahead. That's one thing that I've always done with my community is try and plan ahead as best as possible. And when they put that into their budget, it helps our Public Works Commissioner put it in their budget so that we can strategically solve the problem. I know Commissioner always says, how to eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time. We can't fix every single drain every single year, but we can do it one bite at a time. And I think that's what's happened here over the course of, the increase in your budget line specifically. I think the other thing too, which I love and I think is just brilliant is the like kind grant matching that you're doing. That just maximizes your return on your investment. And I think that should be shared with other departments here in the county because you're able to do more with less. And that's huge. And, looking at your employee request just from last year to this year and then going forward, in 2022, you actually removed a position to contract out that work for the drain specifically so that you could do more. And you're basically trying to do the same thing with this position and get more grants. So I think it's a great strategy, and it obviously, based on the pictures, it definitely is working. So thank you for being here today. I don't see any other questions. Keep doing a great job.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, we are done with items 9A and 9B. We have a motion on the floor. We need to vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Okay, great. Okay, next is department recommendations. This is 10A. This is a contract with Granger Construction. This is for the Macomb County Central Intake and Assessment, Capital Improvement Project, Construction Manager, Pre-Construction Services in the amount of $271,099. And it looks like we have Deputy Delden is going to talk about this. I need a motion to recommend this to full board.
So moved by Nard.
Support Romano.
Moved by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Romano. Mark, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you. We were here back in July of this year when we gave you a comprehensive overview of moving this Central Intake and Assessment Center project forward. At that time in July, the board approved contracts for the architect, for the owner's representative, which is Plant Moran, Real Point, and the technology consultant. We told you at that time that as soon as we had assembled this team, that our first priority was to seek proposals and bring a construction manager on board to complete the team. I do want to thank the commissioners that did call me before today's meeting with some questions that they had. I hope I was able to answer all of them. So back in September, mid-September, the Macomb County Purchasing Department issued requests for proposals. A week later, there was a mandatory pre-bid walkthrough. They had to show up if you were going to bid on the project, and there was a walkthrough, and it was a comprehensive discussion about what the project entailed. 8 construction management firms showed up for that mandatory pre-bid meeting on September 21st. On October the 5th, we received 3 proposals, at which point one of them respectfully requested to withdraw. So that left us 2 very competent construction management firms. They're both Michigan-based, one is Granger Construction, and the one that we're recommending today is Granger Construction, and they're headquartered in Lansing, Michigan, with a Southeast Michigan office in Novi, one in Grand Rapids, and an office in Ohio. We assembled a comprehensive interview committee on October the 16th, made up of the sheriff and representatives from his office, from facilities, the executive's office, our IT director, Jacob Van Blurk, our tech consultant, architect, and our owner's representative. It was the recommendation at the end of those interviews to bring Granger Construction back for another round of interviews, a little bit deeper dive. And one of the things that we request during these interviews is we ask that when we do the interview, we want the team that is going to be in the field, be on site every single day. Because when you're selecting a professional service, it really comes down to the best fit. And we want the people around the table that are going to be on this job. We did that, and again, it was overwhelming. It was a consensus of the interview team to recommend to this board that we bring Granger, a construction manager firm, on board to be the final piece of the team to move this project forward. We have representatives here from Granger Construction today. We also have representatives from our architect firm and our owner representative, as well as representatives from the Macomb County Sheriff Department. Sheriff Wickersham is out of town. He could not be here. I sent a letter to the board office yesterday, and maybe you've seen that with his recommendation on there, which concurs with the team as a whole. What we're asking you to do today, to consider today, is to move to full board the contract for Granger Construction. But the only amount of money we're asking to approve right now is that for pre-construction services, which is about it's in the proposal, $271,000 is what we're asking that you approve. What happens next is design continues. Bid packages for all the different trade categories are assembled. They're put out for bid. They're interviewed. And once we know the final price of what this is going to cost, that's when we would bring an amendment to you for Granger based on that total amount, and it's called a GMP. It's a guaranteed maximum price. We will pay no more for that, and but that will be some months down the road. So that's kind of a high-level overview. I'd like to open it up to the board for any questions. If there's a question that I can't answer, someone with us, with the team here today, can answer, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mark. Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Mark. How are you?
How are you?
Thank you so much for that comprehensive overview. Appreciate it. The pre-construction is a 3-year contract?
It's a 3-year contract, not for pre-construction, but for the entirety of the project. But the
Okay.
next several months will be pre-construction services. It's getting the bid packages ready once the design is complete.
How long do you think that will be than the actual pre-construction?
Good afternoon, Andy Fountain with Plant Moran Real Point. So pre-construction will commence upon approved resolution by this body. We anticipate that those services will last for approximately the next 12 months. We know that there's a hard deadline related to the funding sources. most notably ARPA, that we have to have those dollars committed by December 31st of next year. So we intend to bring forward that GMP amendment that Mr. Dalton previously mentioned to you this time next year.
Okay, thank you. And for this pre-construction amount, will that go towards the overall cost? Or is this just,
Yes, the $271 is inclusive of the, for rounding purposes, of the $228 million.
thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Brown?
Thank you for bringing it forward. I know the group, took great lengths to make sure to find someone of such an important project. We want to make sure we got the right people in place. You mentioned there's a representative from Granger here. Can you
Yes.
bring them forward?
Sure would, Jeff. Jeff Havranek. I hope I pronounced that right, Jeff. Havranek.
From the what? Say your last name again?
Havernack.
Is that Dutch?
It's Czech.
Czech? I thought you'd be from the west side of the state. Well, your company, where have you performed similar projects of this scale? Because
So we have a number of corrections projects that we've completed. We have 4 ongoing in Ohio right now. We have 1 tri-venture in Indiana that is just over $1 billion. So we have about a $300 million stake in that project. We've completed thousands of beds of correctional facilities in the state of Michigan. In addition to that, and I think an important item to note is I just recently completed the Caro Psychiatric Hospital for the state of Michigan. So being an intake and assessment center, there's certainly those components of this project that apply.
okay, what about this project you see is going to be challenging?
How much time do we have? Certainly, we need
We got about 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be brief. I think it's important to assemble the whole team right now. We need to make sure that we're looking at comprehensive bid packages as early as possible to try to get work started as soon as possible. We're looking at about 178,000 square feet of new construction. In order to start that work, there's a lot of demolition and abatement, as well as utility rerouting that needs to take place to make work ready. So looking at the schedule, that's a major challenge here. And we know we're constrained by, as Andy mentioned, the commitment deadline of December 31st, 2024, and the completion deadline of December 31st, 2026. So schedule is certainly a challenge. Logistics are a challenge with, as I mentioned, utility routing. There's going to be a lot of factors that we need to pull together with all of our stakeholders, making sure we have alignment. Sorry.
It's a big project, going to be a lot of people bidding on this job and making sure that, we try to use local contractors, people in the area, I mean, as soon as they're competitive, right, to involve. What is your thoughts on, integrating, contractors and local contractors and responding to, labor issues that may come up?
Great question. We do have a lot of local relationships with, larger mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors, as well as all the key trades. One thing that we discussed in the interview process at some length is early onboarding of some of the key trade partners through an early onboarding process, similar to how we were brought on in a construction management capacity. So it would be partially qualifications based and partially cost based with a recommendation to this body. And in doing so, we can help alleviate some of the market conditions that we see from the outside, lead time factors, reserving labor, manpower, things of that nature.
Yeah, supply chain's been an issue after COVID, and it's still hanging on, I think. Are you prepared? What's your experience with that? And do you think do you see any problems for us coming forward that could cause us problems?
There are components of the project that we would definitely target for early procurement. You know,
Well, just give me a couple of examples.
so the
please.
capital improvements plan has us replacing several generators. Generator lead times right now are ranging anywhere from 50 to 80 weeks. So a year to a year and a half. That's something that we'll want to make sure we're getting ahead of. Low voltage switchgear, audiovisual components. Then there's the whole security electronics and detention equipment aspect of this project that we'll need to make sure we're bringing early procurement practices to that.
Thank you. Now, to Mr. Dillon, later in the agenda, we've got your dashboard for the jail intake project. That's soon coming online as well. Can you speak to that just briefly?
Yes, I want Andy to come up here. That's the one that's in your packet
Yes.
tonight, right, for receive and file, the dashboard.
That'll keep us up to date on what's going
You'll
on.
be getting a dashboard every month throughout the project, and then quarterly, at least for this next year while we're in design, quarterly, we will come and do a in-person presentation to you, but you'll still get a dashboard every month throughout the project.
Okay, thank you.
So all the commissioners can keep a pulse on what's going on up there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Perna.
The architect is the one that gave us the initial cost, am I correct?
It was done with the architect in conjunction with Plant Moran, the estimated construction cost.
So what happens, I know it's difficult because cost of labor, cost of product, cost of equipment. How do you handle 2 years from now, 3 years from now, if there's a labor problem, if there's a availability problem, we're going to have horrendous amount of overruns?
Yes, just to, I guess, answer that directly, the budget that was presented to you back in July, it accounted for those factors. So there's an escalation factor in the cost of materials, labor, over the course of the program that's built into that budget. We also have included what's referred to as a design contingency within that budget. So as we work through the various stages of design, and we have Granger Construction now participate in the delivery of a schematic, which is approximately 30% design, a design development design, which is approximately 50 to 60%, all the way through construction documents, which is 100% design documents. They're going to provide us with estimating or pre-construction services so that we make sure that we stay in alignment with that budget. And we use the cost escalation and design contingencies to help us along the way to fill the gaps, and that may, if we're over or maybe if we're under, we can put money back in the, back into the contingency and work through the entire process to make sure that we stay within the overall budget of, approximately 230 million.
So their estimate with the escalation clause of product, labor, equipment, availability, it's all been added to that.
It'll all be within the stated budget. Or we'll calibrate the scope of the work.
Local labor, how are you handling that?
I'm gonna let Jeff speak to that.
Yeah, great question. As I mentioned, we have extensive trade relationships in Macomb, Oakland, Wayne County. Last we checked, we're in around 1,000 trade contract partners that we've worked with in the Tri-County area in the recent past. So we will certainly be engaging for the majority of the trade packages, local labor and contractors. I think there's an exception there, which we spoke about during the interview process. There are a couple of specialty trades, the detention equipment and the security electronics, which will have to reach out to some national firms. But by and large, we'll be seeking local labor.
Will you be hiring individuals, businesses that are not in the trades?
Meaning?
Non-union?
It will be the ARPA funding precludes us from doing that. So basically, we have to comply with Davis-Bacon. So they can be non-union, but they'll have to meet the federal prevailing wage.
That's all right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Zinner?
Thank you, Chair. With the planning, you may have said this previously, and I don't remember. Have you had the professionals that work in this area as part of the planning at all?
Absolutely. The architect, Partners in Architecture, Mr. Malone, who's here tonight, has partnered with a firm out of another state that specializes in these mental health and correctional facilities. So the experts are at the table.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Mark, a couple things. First of all, the 200-plus pages in the packet, I think, today, just based on Granger and the request. I think, this is obviously the largest project the county's ever done in its history. And Jeff, your package, based on what I read, and I actually read it again last night just to make sure I wasn't missing anything, but you seem to be the perfect fit for this project based on the projects you've done in the past. And it seems to me, based on this type of a project, you have a great grasp of it. So I'm happy that you're the recommended contractor for the position. Couple things in regards to price points. So obviously this is just for pre-construction services for Granger. I know this would come back to us as far as numbers and design and all that stuff in a year. Is there any anticipation that that's going to come back to this board a little sooner than 12 months? And the reason I say that is because you're nodding your heads. We don't want to be here in December when we have to make a final decision based on the deadline that we have at hand. I think this board is going to want a little time to digest what the requests are and all the due diligence that's going to be done. Is that something that will be possible?
Well, it can be. It will be possible. It is possible. We're paying them.
It's so, to Jeff's point earlier, now that we're going to have a construction manager at the table, and Jeff also mentioned, there's opportunity for those early procurement items, whether it's a generator or switchgear or something else that's specialty that has that long lead. We're going to work with Granger to understand where those opportunities reside within the program. So to your question of, is it anything coming sooner than 12 months, we would anticipate things like demo, abatement, long lead items, things like that. We're going to spot those opportunities. We're going to bring them for you, for recommendation, not all at once. So you'll see over the course of 12 months that we'll be bringing forward items for you for consideration and approval.
Okay. And then in regards to the contract for Granger, obviously this is the pre-construction, but the actual cost for them to render these services, if we were to move forward, obviously, once we get all the numbers, the hard numbers and the design, what is the total amount on that?
The inside the proposal, there's an estimate. So it's based on $134 million of hard construction. And it's a percentage figure that we deal with percentages. The price comes in at approximately $9 million, a little over $9 million. And that's when we'll ask for an amendment to Granger's contract, assuming you approve this. We wait for all those numbers to come in, and then it's whatever the percentage is that we've agreed to. I think it's 6.9% multiplied by what all the bids came in at in totality. But if we hit our target of 134 million, it'd be a $9 million amendment to this contract.
Got it. Obviously, we have to, we're still looking for additional funds here. The plan is either to bond or take the money out of the general fund or whatever the case may be, but we're still hoping the state will render another check to us would be great. In regards to that specifically, I know right now, like on our capital improvement plan, we just have it plotted as bonds. Is that the initial intent right now?
To pay for this project?
Yes.
Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, it's no bonds. It's using about $130 million worth of ARP dollars the 40 million that we received from the state of Michigan, and about $50 million in fund balance. Am I right? Just those three buckets are how we're paying for this. So we are not anticipating that we are going to need to issue bonds. This project is already, the money's set aside.
So the anticipation for the difference would be coming specifically out of the general fund, the 50 million.
The 50 million, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Van Sickle. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. How many Granger people will be full-time on site from what time to what time?
We've proposed a team of 8 full-time employees. We'll be mobilizing right now. We're contemplated around middle of September next year, and that is through December 31st of 2026. We have a number of support positions as well, quality control, safety management, that'll be not full-time on the project, but will be supporting the job as well.
With the implementation of the contract we voted on or will vote on today for Granger, are you going to be here or are you still working something else someplace?
I'm committed to this project, so I'm available starting today, as well as our pre-construction department. So they do all of the cost estimating. We do a lot of the planning with the team, and then the full-time employee staff positions roll in as the work starts.
Okay, do you move your people here or?
Most of them are local. We have several Macomb County residents that'll be working on the project. And we'll have a job site office, so we'll be on site.
Someplace other than the job site or right at the job site, you mean?
Right at the job
Right
site.
at the job site.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, similar questions. So when we have our in-person quarterly reviews, you'll be here along with our company rep.
Yes, correct.
Okay. What other projects do you have going on right now? Granger's a big company. Your project all over this country going on right now. Do you have, I guess the concern, are you overcommitted? Are you stretched? Or do you have the capacity to deal with us, to give us the full attention and not have us be on a sidetrack while you're working on something else that just might put our schedule back just a little bit because we're doing something else for some other job? And so I guess
Great
let's
question.
speak to that a little.
Yes, this fits perfectly with our wheelhouse. We've been targeting this project for several years, actually. We're very happy to get it. We think that we are perfectly positioned, and we think our experience lends to this project very well. Our total annual revenue is about $600 million, and when you layer on the year-over-year amount of work we're going to be putting into place, it's going to be about 10% of that. And we're not overcommitted on our backlog right now, so it fits perfectly into the other work that we have going on regionally. We have some work going on currently at Eastern Michigan University, Oakland University, larger projects at Michigan State, and as Mark mentioned, we have offices in Ohio and on the west side of the state in Grand Rapids, where we have various projects going on, ranging in size.
We answered my second question, which was local projects you've done in the area. Any in Macomb County?
Actually, I was
recent.
involved in the Detroit Arsenal Administration Building and Parking Structure for the Army Corps of Engineers. That's the largest notable project that we've done in Macomb County. That was in, I think that one wrapped up in '09.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we have a motion to recommend this to full board. Please vote. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
The votes aren't coming through. If everybody wants to voice vote, I can mark it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion passes 13-0.
Okay, next item is 10B. This is a budget amendment for Juvenile Justice Center, building modification agreement with the state of Michigan for $255,137. I need a motion to recommend this to full board.
So moved by Nard.
Board.
Moved by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Hall. And we have Andy
Good
here to
afternoon.
talk about it.
Good afternoon, Chairman. I appreciate your time today. We discussed this at our last meeting. We have a tenant that we would like to welcome into the JJC. They needed to have some modifications made to that building. It is fully state funded on a reimbursement basis, and we're bringing it here today. If you take a look at what was provided to you, I believe there are two number 9s. The second number 9 was Burnco. That estimate has already come to this board for approval, and now we're looking to move forward on that project. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Andy, first question, I'll tee it up here. When's the estimated time this would be completed? I know we haven't officially approved the actual lease yet.
Yeah.
And this is actually specifically tied to the lease and to the building. When would this be completed in conjunction with the actual lease start date?
Yeah, Commissioner, I thank you very much for that question. I think it's a great question. And actually, the door in particular, this permanent security door, was about a 12 to 16-week lead time, so that had to be ordered previously, and that won't be installed until January. So what we have done in the meantime is we're able to put up a temporary door to separate those two that would get fire approval, and that could be the monies from the state could start sooner than that permanent door being completed. Also, with some of the camera systems, it's again a 7 to 8 week lead time, so we're waiting on those pieces. So those can't be installed immediately, but the state can use the side of the building that they're looking to use without these things completely done, and they can do them as they move youth into that facility.
Okay. The youth that are going to be moved into this facility, this would be obviously operated by the state. Will they be contracting this out in any way, or are they handling this 100%?
That's a great question, Commissioner, and it's one that we touched on the other day. They are contracting this out to an organization called Rite of Passage. So the state is leasing the space from us. It is then the state's responsibility to handle whatever happens on their side of the building, including with their provider for those youth.
Great. Seeing no other questions, please vote.
Motion passes 12-1. Motion passes 12-1. Commissioner Van Sickle voting no.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, next item is a full board approval requested at committee.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I would like to change my vote to no. I agree with no. Can I change my vote at this time?
What our board rules are there? I don't believe it.
Point of order, Chair, she could probably change it during full board.
That'd
No,
be
if I
correct.
can't change it, then I won't. Let's
Final vote will be at full board, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Next item is full board approval requested at this committee for a budget amendment for facilities and operations for Comtech roads renovation furniture purchase in the amount of $76,597.71. Seeing two items here, and then also
Who is that?
the actual purchase of this is a transfer from, it looks like, the capital improvement fund. So I'll take a motion to recommend 10C and 10D to full board.
So moved by Nard.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Romano. And I think he's talking about this one.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. This is one of the projects that I am continuing to handle, which is the Comtech Roads project. So if you remember, back in June, the board approved the budget amendment and a contract with DNS Contractors for the renovation over at that facility. And now we are at the point where we are ready to order furniture. So the budget amendment is to move money into that capital project fund from the various sources. And then obviously the second item is for the actual purchase of the furniture. Funding for the dispatch and the road department is 100% funded by both of those departments. So those funds will be appropriated in the budget amendment. And then you have the amount of the $12,882.29 that would be moved into the project, which is coming from the capital projects general fund. We are asking for full board approval today and consideration, just because of the timing and the leads on the furniture. I know 2 weeks may not seem like a lot of time, but we consider it a lot of time and be able to get a jump on getting the furniture in. The project has been broken up into 2 phases. You essentially have work going on in the Comtech side of the building, and that is the area in the lobby area that's being worked on now. So we'd like to get that furniture ordered as soon as possible, because that area should be done end of this year, early January, and then the furniture can come in and those employees can be moved into that space. And then once that phase finishes, they will start on essentially the road department side, and the furniture will come in shortly. The project should be done around March is what we're anticipating. Majority of the furniture being ordered is chairs for employees, conference rooms, break room areas. Not a lot of furniture there. The road department, who is really the largest portion of the renovation, they actually have furniture that is in the exec's office that they will be reclaiming and taking back once their renovation is complete. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Would the maker of the motion consider adding C and D together, and I'll amend my motion to support?
That is the motion on the floor, Commissioner.
I thought I was just approving just C. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Easy enough. Vicki, really quick question in regards to this. Is this coming out of the 23 budget or the 24 budget?
23 budget.
23, okay. And we had allocated the 12,000 in general fund dollars in that?
Yes,
in that.
plan for.
Seeing no other questions, please vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks, Vicki.
Nice seeing you again.
Thought I
Felt
was seeing
well
something.
rested.
I was, Vicki's here. Okay, next is item 10E. This is a receive and file discussion for resolution 2023-11312, a resolution approving the intergovernmental agreement establishing the Macomb County Land Bank Authority. I need a motion to receive and file.
So move, Hall.
Support Van Sickle.
Moved by Commissioner Hawes, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. And JP is going to be presenting.
Thank you, Commissioner Sabatini. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of the board this evening to begin the conversation with regards to an aspirational opportunity that we give a tremendous amount of credit to the Treasurer's Office. Treasurer Larry Rocca and his team that is here this evening not only provided us with a comprehensive overview of the utility and the impact that a land bank authority could have for Macomb County, but provided us with some very dynamic inroads to forge some initial conversations with the State Land Bank Authority and a number of partners throughout the region and here locally to understand the applicability of this tool and the impact it can have on everything from neighborhood stability to a number of other principles of financial empowerment that we've discussed throughout the budget hearing process. So I'm going to turn it over to the people that actually know what this is. My colleague Skip Macaroon's going to hop up here, give a little bit of overview. I know Paige is also going to step up here and provide some insights. And as always, be more than happy to illustrate some of the utility that we see under the umbrella of planning and economic development and some of our Macomb community action programs too. Skip.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Of course, a lot of credit goes also not only to Treasurer Rocca, but his former deputy, Joe Biondo, taking over his office. I had the opportunity to review materials that have dated back to 2019 where this was on his radar. Our corporation counsel also has reviewed this, and part of the reason that we're here tonight, originally for a recommendation of the board, now receive and file, is there are some timelines that were truly court-imposed. The notion of a land bank is, by statute, about 20 years old. It has a tremendous ability for the county to take properties and with no additional expense to rehabilitate them, to brownfield them, to do all kinds of things that would take properties that otherwise are in disrepair, stay in disrepair, are contaminated, would otherwise stay contaminated for extended periods of time, that are foreclosed upon and not recovered at a tax sale and a foreclosure sale, and would allow a board to tap into tremendous amounts of funding, both state and federal, to allow these properties to become again productive. All of you have properties in your various districts that would be affected by this. The statutory structure is a very precise one, but we have been very fortunate through the efforts of Paige and Christina and Treasurer Rocca and others. We met with Director Rivet, who was appointed in September by Governor Whitmer, and he has basically said, we embrace the idea of Macomb County. We not only have properties that we can put into your land bank, but we have access to funds that he personally has access to fund the rehabilitation of these properties. So the problem that we're confronted with is this. If the board does not approve the resolution before you and the intergovernmental agreement before you, and in that make the nominations and confirm the nominations of appointment to the 5-member board, and they do not conduct their meeting prior to December 31st at midnight, the opportunity is lost to the county. It defaults to every community in the county. And cities, townships can create their own land banks and do whatever it is they think is appropriate for their community. But the County Board of Commissioners has the opportunity to make this a global effort, to have a 30,000-foot view, and to see that the county is treated appropriately. And the appointment of individuals to this, Mr. Crecia examined this very carefully. It's important to know that there was a close coordination with the state and review of state laws. The initial funding for this will come from excess funds from forfeiture. It's a nominal amount. When I say nominal, we're talking in large dollars. We're talking maybe $200,000 just to establish the workings of that panel and allow them to start working towards the applications for the monies, get the properties in. And these properties can either be owned or controlled by the county. So there's a lot of opportunity. I don't think I'm over exaggerating. If you're talking about the next 2 to 5 years, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And you can all sort of look around and figure out what areas you may have that need these kinds of assistance. This is really a tremendous opportunity. I'll let Paige come up, our Deputy Treasurer, to just talk real briefly about the importance of this. And Frank Crecia is here to answer any of your questions about how the intergovernmental agreement was drafted, why it is the nominations and confirmation process is as it is written. But this has been carefully examined by the state and by the director. He's put his imprimatur on it. We'd like you to consider it seriously. And the timing of this is critical. If I'm not mistaken, the opportunity for this is November 20th, December 12th, December 14th. And if it were to be December 14th, if there were to be any dissension among the board members and a vote not be taken to approve the nominations of the county executive, unless the county executive was present at this meeting, made the nominations from the floor, and you voted for it, the opportunity is lost forever.
I really don't have too much more to add than what Skip already went through, but I guess from a tax reversion standpoint, I've been up here and talking to you before about the Raffaelli decision and how that's changed how the Treasurer Office operates, especially for our foreclosures. This is really, the land bank would be a tool kind of to return these properties to like a productive use. Previously, we would sell a lot of properties to local communities under first right of refusal. That is no longer a constitutional thing that we can do. That's been declared unconstitutional. So we would say, like, I'd have a block of properties that went through tax foreclosure. St. Clair Shores, Harrison Township, Warren, all these places would buy those from me at the cost of the taxes. That they can no longer do. They would then return those to use. That's really not something that we can do anymore because of all those decisions that have come down. So this is kind of going to be another tool that we can do that, because we're going to have properties that show up that really communities are not going to want to take back and take on that without having to pay for them at that lower cost and having to pay for the higher cost instead. So this is going to allow us to do some of those revitalization activities and help bring those properties back to productive use.
Commissioners, the last thing that I would like to add from an operational perspective is currently across the state of Michigan, there's 50 county-established land banks that are current operation, working with not only the State Land Bank Authority, but a number of other agencies at the state level. We see a number of dollars that are going to be coming down the pipeline with a lot of the conversations that we've been having about our consolidated housing effort in coordination with Health and Community Services and Macomb Community Action. We feel that's another avenue, as Skip kind of highlighted, that would not only leverage an arena where we could operationalize those dollars and also optimize those dollars in coordination with the locals. A coordinated effort countywide is the best course of action for us with regards to the application of the land bank. Having the state support in this endeavor puts us in an opportunistic position to access those dollars from a state level and gives us the ability to bring those dollars to the third largest county of the state of Michigan. I would assume you've probably got 8 dozen questions at least. We will tag team that in any capacity. The other thing that I very much want to highlight here is the coordination with our Corporation Counsel's office. With John, Frank, and Molly sitting back there, they did a fantastic job in not only looking at this through every single prism to truly understand the impact that could have in the county and put us in a position where we not only want to embrace this, but we truly believe that it is going to be an opportunity for us to have some tremendous impact with regards to neighborhood stability and with regards to underutilized property across the county. The other thing from an economic development component too, I know a lot of conversations around land bank are targeted around residential properties. Undoubtedly, we would look to target and utilize this for institutional and industrial uses too. In what ways can we bring those properties back to more active use and back on the tax rolls in our communities? So I'll yield to any questions, and more than anything, we'll kind of juggle those questions as they come in. Thank you.
I know we have a lot of questions, so we're going to start with Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. JP, you answered one of my questions, was how many counties are already doing this? And you said about 50, which...
There's 50 county established. The city of Detroit has their own municipal.
Okay. So there's 50 counties that already have this. We're somehow in a crunch to make a decision from now till the end of the year. Why? How did that happen? Was there a new law that was passed? Give me some timeline on this, because this window is tight yet again. And you know that makes me nervous.
I hate saying when questions are asked, that's a great question, because I know it's typically gratuitous, but that is a great question. Mr. Creasy is going to explain to you, he in fact was an opponent of this until about 2.5 months ago, and he'll explain why.
Well, yes, as Ms. Bashand indicated, I've been doing the tax foreclosure ever since they changed the law in '99. So, and the former treasurer, Ted Wabi, set up a policy where he would have all the communities buy their properties, and they would basically operate kind of like an under-the-table land bank. To put it, it wasn't under the table, but they would operate their own land bank. As I told the mayor of Warren, he said, well, I don't like who you sell the property to. I say, we sell the property to the last person that has his hands up at the auction, okay? When you buy the property, you can control how it's developed. Well, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals in federal court in Hall versus Oakland County decided that that process, which was required by state law, was unconstitutional. And so we can't sell the property to the communities like that anymore. So that kind of, when I was agreeing with Mr. Wabi's procedure, now I say, well, we can't do that anymore, right? That's against the law. So what do? And now we've got communities that have a lot of properties that they haven't completely developed and they still hold. Well, really what we were doing is we were going around forming a land bank. Now we can't do that anymore because of this change in law. The other thing that helped change my mind that I recently learned is that if there's a brownfield, you can put it in a land bank now. I didn't know that. And if you put it in a land bank, the state will probably, most likely, and they're telling us they have the money, pay for fixing that, or remediating that property. And the only way we can get the money to remediate that property is to put the property in a land bank. And then I said, why am I opposing a land bank anymore? In fact, I went from saying we shouldn't have a land bank to we must have a land bank. There's the only way to address the problems in this county is to have a land bank. And when the treasurer tells me, he came in a couple of 2 months ago, says I want a land bank, and I learned all this, I said, yes, I will do what I can. So we contacted the state. The state gave us this, and it's an intergovernmental agreement with the state. And I want everybody to understand that. That's between the treasurer and the state of Michigan. And that's because the law, under the law, the treasurer is what's called the foreclosing governmental unit, which means that he is authorized to foreclose for taxes on the property in Macomb County. That happened in 1999. Okay, so he's the treasurer of the county, is the foreclosing governmental unit. There's a section in the Land Bank Fast Track Act that provides that the foreclosing governmental unit, if it's the county treasurer, can enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the state land bank. And that's what we're doing, that's what we're requesting the board to authorize. Under the law, it needs the treasurer has to agree to do it, then needs to get the approval of the executive and the approval of the board. Now, there's some elements in a land bank, and one thing they talked about is the land bank, by the way, is a separate governmental entity, kind of like a drain board. There's a board that runs the land bank. It's a separate legal entity. But most county land banks aren't really all that separate. Like I would probably still be their attorney working for them. And the county would obviously have input in it. And we would, just like a drain board, you'd talk to local communities, we'd work like that. But it's a separate legal entity. But it wouldn't have its own, like a drain board doesn't have its own office. The office would be in the treasurer's office, basically. So, but a land bank needs to have an odd number board. So the state recommended that we have a 5-member board. The treasurer is automatically on the land bank board and is the chairperson of the board. That's by law. So you don't need to appoint the treasurer because he's already on the board. Now you have 4 other positions. Under the charter, all 4 positions would be appointed by the exec subject to approval of this board. That's section 3.8 of the charter. I looked at this and talked to some people and said, I think it's important that the executive have eyes and ears on the board and that the board has eyes and ears on this board. So I suggested that 1 position is an executive appointment and 1 position is a board appointment. Board can appoint whoever it wants without approval of the executive. You can appoint a commissioner, you can appoint somebody on your staff, you can appoint somebody you trust. That's your decision. It's got to be a Macomb County resident. That's the only qualification. So I recommended we add that in. The executive agreed to that and the state agreed to that. So that's a position that you wouldn't have gotten if we just followed the charter. The other position is a local government official. So the local government official would probably be, let's say, for example, a township supervisor or somebody like that. The executive would appoint or recommend one. The board would approve the appointment. And then the other one would be an at-large.
You still didn't answer my question. You spoke for a long time, but I'm focused on timelines. Like, where did December 31st come from? Is there a law that specifically says end of the calendar year, or based on when you establish this, this is how much time you have?
It's the state land bank authority's rules.
Okay, so it's not a new bill that was just approved this year?
We just found out about this. And so we said, we got to get moving. Oakland County's Russian one through, I think.
So all these counties have had land banks, and we just found out. I'm so confused here, and I'm so confused over the rush.
Again, the reason we were, based on the prior treasurer's policy, we didn't have one. And now, because of a change in the law, and the state tells us we need to do this, or they're going to open it up to communities.
Okay, so when was that change in the law?
The change in the law was the Hall decision. That was within the last year.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to talk about the rest of that in closed session because we have potential liability. But I don't. want
But at
to-
least that gives me somewhere where I can go after this meeting
Right.
and take a look at that.
We're still trying to understand, the ramifications of the Hall decision too. So,
Okay.
That's in Hall versus Oakland County. I've got copies. I got more on that. If you want to talk about that, we can go into closed session on pending litigation because it's related to the Fox class action.
Okay. Thank you for now, Frank. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me so much latitude.
Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Frank. Maybe it's me. I'm trying to get my head around this land bank, okay? So the old way, as you mentioned, was the treasurer would foreclose on taxes and sell the property to the local or have the local municipality pick it up. Now you're saying that same foreclosure, the municipality will not have an option to pick up that property, but we will as Macomb County. Am I right so far?
Yeah, it's, what'll happen is we offer it at auction. If nobody buys it, then we can put it in the land bank.
Okay, so the foreclosure process for auction is still going to continue?
Yes.
So the property that is not sold at auction is the one that's going into the land bank?
Right.
Okay, so what happens when it goes in? Where do we get the money from the land bank to buy these properties?
The money from the land bank comes from the foreclosure produces revenue.
Well, not for that property.
Not from that, from other property, because there's a surplus. First of all, we're paying the taxes and the fees. The taxes and the fees are significant.
Who's paying that? The land bank?
When we sell the property, there's taxes and fees attached to it. So there's above and beyond the taxes, there's fees and interest. But
Frank, I'm sorry,
also
who pays that? You haven't told me who pays that,
the buyers of the property.
which would be the land bank.
No, the buyers of the property at the first auction pay money to the county treasurer. And there's funds that are not claimed, there's excess funds. There's a surplus procedure now by statute. And if people don't timely file a surplus claim, that the money goes into the county. So the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that was constitutional years ago in a New York case. So the state legislature adopted a procedure, and we have money that we receive to start. Once we start, the money that we get, it'll be self-funding basically after that. The money will be acquiring property. We'll get grants and that to support and rejuvenate the property, build neighborhoods. When we sell the property, the money goes back in, and it's just like the community development block grant for the home repairs. We use the money we get in to fix new houses, new property. So it becomes
Let me use an example. 30 pieces of property are sold at auction. 20 of them are not picked up by, nobody bids on them. We've got 20 pieces of property. Total taxes amount to $40,000. Where does the $40,000 come for that property to go in the land? Oh, I see Mr. Macaron up, the attorney. Go ahead.
Did I say that's a great question?
Go up to the microphone and tell me where that 40,000 comes from.
I won't say that then. You have to look at two baskets. One basket are properties that are sold at auction. One basket is properties that are not sold at auction. The properties that are sold at auction generate excess monies for the county.
Okay,
There is a process where if the person who didn't pay the taxes on that property, that would otherwise have owned the property, files a timely claim, they can obtain some or all of that surplus. That's not of that basket there. Not everybody does, and there's still a question of law that has to be decided as to how far back that goes for reimbursement under their litigation. That's why you'd have to talk to you in closed session.
let me stop you so that I understand where you're at. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I want to make sure, I want to follow you right down the line here. They foreclosed on my property. It was worth $100,000. They foreclosed on it. It was owed $50,000. So there's $50,000 left. The federal government has not ruled on who gets that extra $50,000. Is that correct?
Deputy Bashand is going to help.
Oh, come on, guys. Oh, you're confusing me more.
Oh, no, we
Just-
won't.
that's
we
a
won't. No, we know who's on first.
Is it me? Listen, if I'm wrong, I'll wait. I don't want to, I'll waiver this. Is it me, commissioners, or? No, okay, everybody's shaking their heads. You're confusing us.
Keep going.
Deals with this on a daily basis. Best to answer this.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, maybe we misunderstood your question at first, but let me just explain the kind of the tax foreclosure process, because it's gonna answer what you're just asking right there. So first step of tax foreclosure, we foreclose on the property. Under the General Property Tax Act, I'm supposed to offer it under the first right of refusal to the city. That is what Frank Creasha and I've told you that is no longer constitutional. What the cities would do is they would purchase that property for the amount of the taxes that are due. So zero cost, we're talking to like no cost to Macomb County. They're purchasing it for the taxes, we are reimbursed, right? They would then be able to revitalize that property.
Okay.
Can't do that anymore. Now it goes to an auction, okay? I sell it to the highest bidder, okay? If no one buys it, the highest bidder, then I offer it again to the cities, and they can potentially buy it for the amount of taxes. If no one buys it there, I sell it in another auction, and I put a minimum bid price on it, like let's say $100. So what does that mean? At that point, the county is already out of money for reimbursements. How we make that up, though, is I usually sell properties at that first auction at a higher amount, and then for the properties that are at the second auction, that kind of eats up that cost. Or sometimes we could charge back. We haven't had to charge back to cities in a while. What then would happen is, let's say no one takes it at that second auction, then the property basically either gets given back to the cities, but cities don't necessarily want them, potentially, depending on what it is. If it's got a lot of brownfield problems or other things, the city doesn't want to take it and absorb that cost. Right now, we have no place to put that property. We're going to put that property, if this is passed, into a land bank. And that would not be someone paying a bill or paying how to purchase the property. It would us be absorbing the amount of the taxes, which I already do in the foreclosure process for anything that we sell for less than the amount of those taxes. So it's not a purchase price necessarily. It's kind of absorbed through all those tax foreclosure processes and the costs.
You did explain it very nicely. So the city has refused, the city doesn't want it. It goes to auction, they don't want it. What do we want with the junk property if nobody else wants it?
Well, what we want to do and what we're hoping to do with all this, and I think John
John, you want to get up, let's make.
we want to revitalize that property. I want to return that to a productive use so that it generates taxes and that we don't have blight in our communities and do all that. Things like that, we were able to do by first selling those to the city. That's what I'm saying and what Frank is saying that we can't do any longer. So we're hoping that through this process, this is another tool that we have so that we can revitalize those pieces of property and return them to a tax-paying status and to a usable, valued property.
Got it. I think you did explain it very nicely. So the last question I have, and I'll let another commissioner go at it. So the court ruling has, there has not been a court ruling to do what the excess money on a foreclosure. Does it go back to the owner of the property, or do we get to keep it? Now, what happens if that ruling goes back 10 years? Who's going to end up with who's going to come up with all that money to pay back these original owners?
Well, again, we're going to go into closed session if you want to discuss the Fox ruling, but we have taken steps to account for that.
Okay, that's good.
We're holding some money for that.
That's
by
fine.
the way,
That's all I
the-
need. You got it. Next commissioner, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you short. You answered my question.
Really quick, because Commissioner Romano made as a great question, but just to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that, Frank, I know during the foreclosure process, when we auction off the property, we have auctioned off a bundle of properties, not individually, and they have been sold. And correct me if we can talk about this or not. Obviously, Oakland County has not, and they have individually done that. Are we saying we are going to be going forward, not auctioning off bundles of property? We will be doing that individually?
That's correct. I do not recommend selling by bundles anymore, even though it's allowed by statute until the law becomes settled. And by the way, the law on this, we're talking about these cases. I mean, every 2 weeks, it's something different. So I can give you an overview as to where we are today, but in 2 weeks, it could be different. But it's starting to clear up. There's numerous cases that have been decided on different issues, and it's slowly clearing up.
Okay.
But
I wanted to just clear that point with
Yeah, we're not
Commissioner
gonna
Romano's
do
comments so that the
bulk
board was clear.
auctions.
Commissioner Nard.
You asked my question.
Oh.
That's what I was gonna ask about selling the properties in bundle. Was that gonna cease? And so that's gonna cease. So they won't be selling them in bundles like that. And I watch Home and Garden a lot. I'm really into that. My brother, refurbished homes. So I really like this idea of, the county doing that. So that's a good thing. But I know it's been a problem, in Warren. We have a lot of blighted properties and, they're interested in tearing them down. And I just feel bad when they want to tear something down as opposed to rebuilding it. I would much rather see that, give it new life. So, I mean, Romano, you just confused me with what I wanted to ask. I got a bunch of stuff written here. and then Commissioner Sabatini just cleared everything up. Just as long as they're not going to be, sold in bundles. And I got a lot of calls about this with the transparency, which is what Detroit was having, a lack of transparency, inadequate oversight, ineffectiveness in addressing blight, failure to engage with residents, which I'm hoping that this new group that we're going to do is going to address residents that will want to not be renters anymore, but maybe want to buy some of those blighted properties if they get fixed. So, and financial mismanagement. Those were things that people brought up to me when they first seen this. So, and I was like, well, I'm sure the county has addressed that, what you guys are doing today. So.
Commissioner, if I may, real quick, with regards to all those elements, we are unilaterally aligned with all of those aspirations with regards to financial empowerment, neighborhood stability, and also the ability for people to have more socioeconomic freedom. Owning a home is undoubtedly one of the scariest financial endeavors anyone would go through. I think what we've seen, not only with the efforts through the Treasurer's Office, but also with our coordinated housing plan, that engagement in bringing in all those advocates has been a key element of this process. With our consolidated housing process now, we've got about, I believe it's about 5 or 6 dozen different community stakeholders and providers that are not only talking about housing affordability, and housing resources that not only just focus on the initial transaction, but all the other ancillary support services that can go around to support those individuals too. So yes, that is going to be part of the DNA of this effort. And I think more importantly, it opens up different routes for funding to come in. That's whether it's through MISTA, DHHS, MEDC, Leo, and a lot of the economic opportunity programs at the state level.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you. For the 5 people who would be running this, they're called the board.
Yes.
Are those paid positions?
No.
Is there any form of, any structure in the, I haven't really read the whole thing. We didn't really have it. Is there any structure in there for this board to recall any of those members?
Yes.
Good.
Put that in. We put it in, you can recall for cause. And the board has the authority to recall for cause.
And the board gets to decide the cause?
You would have to hold a hearing.
Thank you. And then, if I understand right, after you go through the process that was outlined, and after the second auction, if the property doesn't go, it's moved into the land bank.
Right.
The county gets no money from the land bank at that point in time. If and when the land bank sells the property, does the land bank then give the county the tax money that originally put the property into the land bank?
No, what happens is the money gets used to renovate other properties. It's it's a continuing funds. That's how the land bank funds itself, is by sale and then renovation.
So those taxes on that property never get paid?
They get paid by the other, again, as Paige indicated, since the law changed, we've had, I think, 2 auctions, Paige. And both of those auctions, we were able to take proceeds from other sales and avoid having the county, all the taxes were paid in both auctions. One of the goals the treasurer used to tell me is, get all the taxes paid, and I don't want to own any properties. Well, that second part is going to end, or it was ended. Now we were going to end up owning properties under this law, but we all get the taxes paid. So your taxes are paid, but there's excess money, and that's what the land bank would use.
Okay. If my answer was in there, I totally didn't understand it. So there's a property in the land bank, one property in the land bank.
Right.
And you sell that property.
Yes,
Does the county get its tax money at that point in time?
yes.
From who?
There was an excess, there was a recovery above and beyond the taxes that was not claimed by the prior owners. That money is used to pay the taxes on the ones that weren't paid through the auction.
Okay, so you're saying that if we put a property in the land bank and the state gives us some cash to remediate that property, and it becomes back to full market value, and we sell it for full market value, out of that sale price, the county can get its tax money, and the owner of the previous owner of the property can get the balance?
No, the county gets its tax money before it goes into the land bank,
From who?
from the funds received from the auction above and beyond taxes that are unclaimed.
What money is at an auction that isn't unclaimed?
Property sells for, let's say, $60,000.
The property didn't sell.
No, I'm just telling you that, I'm talking about, you asked what money is unclaimed. I'm explaining what money is
Okay.
unclaimed. So let's say we have 10 grand in taxes on a property and we sell it for 20, that's a 10 grand surplus. The owner is required to file a notice of intent to claim surplus by July 1st before the auction. The owner does not file that notice of intent. Now, we mail them a copy of the notice of intent and say, please file this, okay? So it's not like, so we say, we've entered a judgment against you. All you need to do is fill out this form and return it to the treasurer by July 1st. We do this in March, and we don't get the form back. That 10 grand can be used for other purposes. So the property that doesn't sell at the auction has 5 grand in taxes. We would take 5 grand from that 10 grand, pay the taxes, and then give that property to the land bank. That's how that works.
Okay, so the county would get its money at that point in time.
Right.
So the taxes on the property going into the land bank would be paid by essentially proceeds from the sale of a different property
Yes, that were unclaimed.
that was unclaimed.
Right.
If the courts decide that's okay.
Well, the United States Supreme Court in Sullivan versus New York in 1954 decided that was okay, and they haven't reversed that decision. So I think, and the question, and the Michigan Court of Appeals, I think within, like I was saying, every 2 weeks, within the last week, the Michigan Court of Appeals ruled that the claim procedure in the current statute is constitutional. So that's where we're at today.
Okay, so then you said that as time goes on, the land bank becomes self-funding.
Yes.
So 20 years from now, when there's $1 billion in the land bank, who does what with that money?
There's not going to be $1 billion in the land bank.
I'm exaggerating to make a point. Who does what with the money in the land that the land bank does generate?
Well, the
over
land
time?
bank, the land bank's money is, the land bank operates as a nonprofit. Its money is used to renovate properties in the county and to take, and I've been, like I said, I've been foreclosing on property, doing the tax foreclosure since they changed the law in 1999. We see the same property come back every 3 years, okay? We sell it, the new owner doesn't pay the taxes on it, it comes back in the tax foreclosure. That's the property that the land bank would, so that now you have a blighted piece of property that an investor bought, and that's the property that we would be focusing on. Get it in the land bank, get some money, fix it up, put it to a use, put some type of housing or business, get a business associated, put something in there that can operate, and then we take it on the tax roll. We put it on the tax roll again. And that's really the goal of the land bank.
But over time, well, making money may not be the goal of the land bank. In general, you're going to sell properties for more than you put into them.
some yes, some no. For example, we had a property this time that we didn't get to use, but we have a lot of this. It's a gentleman bought a house, I forgot, where is it, Roseville? East Point. And there was a vacant lot next to him. When he bought the house, the selling agreement said he bought the house and the vacant lot. Well, the real estate agent messed up and only sold him the house. So we foreclosed on the lot, okay? If we had the land bank, we send it to the auction, nobody buys it at the first auction, we can pay the taxes on that. Then talk to the guy and say, look, give us a couple of $100 or $1,000 for our, our efforts, and we'll sell this to you, and then you'll own it again. And it would have cost him like $3,000 or $2,000. He would have had the property that he thought he owned. And then he goes to his title company and says, reimburse me, because his title company messed up. That's the kind of thing we can do with the land bank. Without the land bank, we can't do that. We can't sell to the municipality to do that, which is what the municipalities used to do. So we're not going to be making a lot of money like that.
Is there anything that the land bank spends money for, gives money to, or does anything with money other than just reinvesting in houses?
It's just reinvesting in houses. Not houses, property.
Property. So over time, if it does accumulate funds, those funds have to stay in the land bank.
The funds stay in the land bank, and then there's an annual report, and the county gets a 6-month out. So if they don't like what's happening after, it's originally for a 5-year span, which is what the state required. And then you have a 6-month option out of it after that. I suspect it'll be a fairly slow start at this point, and then we'll see how it goes. But I don't anticipate we're going to see significant excess funds. One way I could see that happening, though, is that if the state, if there's a remediation, there'll probably be so when we sell it, the state will have to get paid back its fees. So it's not like we're going to make this super profit. This isn't being done to make profit.
Okay, so when the state gives you money to
Commissioner Van
remediate a
Sickle,
property, it's more
Commissioner
like
Van
a loan
Sickle,
than a grant?
Can you hold that question to second round, just so we can get through this first round? We have a number
Certainly.
of commissioners, just to
Thank
keep
you.
it moving. Commissioner Lucido.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Anyways, my question is, first of all, what's the disadvantage of letting the local municipalities have the land banks over the county?
Well, the county covers the entire county, covers the north end, covers the south end. So if we have local municipalities doing it, right now, there's only one, the system is designed for a county to run the land bank. They have the foreclosing governmental unit run it. The only non-county land bank is Detroit. And that's not, well, I don't want to say anything publicly, so.
So that's fine. So my second question is that if we didn't get this done by December, so would that rule out that permanently we could never do a land bank, or could we restart this process for next year?
Well, the other thing is we need to get the land, I'm giving you my recommendation, okay? My recommendation is we need, 3 months ago, I didn't think we needed a land bank. Now I think we must have a land bank. We must have a countywide land bank, because what are we gonna do with the foreclosed properties?
I'm not disagreeing that we don't need a land
Yeah.
bank. Okay, so you don't have to explain to me that I know that's fine. I understand that's your recommendation. I just want to know if let's say, and I'm pro land bank. I am pro land bank. I'm just wondering if we did not apply by December, would there be another opportunity for us to do this?
It would be a mess. Right now, the state tells us, and the other problem is that we would not qualify for certain money.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons for the deadline.
Okay.
So,
My last question is, the properties that are placed in the land bank, okay, that have not sold at the auctions, whose responsibility is it to maintain them until the time when they are, we focus, because we might get 100 properties, 200 properties. We're not gonna be able to work on all of them at the same time. So while they're sitting in the land bank, whose responsibility is it for grass and snow removal?
the land bank, not the county.
So the land bank will pay those services throughout the whole county to maintain the properties during that
Yes.
time?
Then that's the other thing that happens is when you sell to investors,
No,
Which is what was happening.
I realize it. I
Yeah.
agree with that. I totally understand the reason for the land bank. I worked on this a lot in East Point with tax reversion homes.
Yes.
So I am aware that we were not able to buy them anymore and why this is necessary. So that's all I have. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Zinner? Okay, Commissioner Hall, we're still first round.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, when my wife was treasurer, she used to try to explain, I'm just gonna tell this to Joe, this land bank to me. I think she tried about 10 times. I'm not so sure. The two things that I learned is the local municipality was turning the properties over to the county for back taxes once it was foreclosed on because they did not want to become a realtor company in dealing with rehab and selling the property. So that's why the county land bank was so beneficial to them. You guys, us guys, the county would take on the responsibility of, and this is a very lengthy process because it was taking 90 days to foreclose on them and then get them into the tax tribunal to get the property to the city to get it to the county. So that we're not talking a short period of time here. I want to follow on Commissioner Lucido's question. There seems to be a lot of moving parts here that have to be completed very rapidly in order to meet this deadline. Even if we adopt this resolution, you got to go through who's who in the zoo on this committee with, you're saying this is a non-paying position. I mean, yeesh, this is not easily understood, and we all have read the problems south, and we don't want to incur any of them. So I think we're in a crunch here, and I don't disagree with you, Frank, because I did speak to the former treasurer a little bit, and she said, well, I don't care who has the land bank, but somebody better have one because the city's not going to do it. So I guess that's my take on it. And if you want a nomination for this, I nominate Joe. That's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know we have second round. I just got a few questions here. So first of all, people know me that I don't like authorities. Every authority that we've created, this Board of Commissioners, we've had a problem with. That's the first thing. The second thing is, on this agreement, I noticed everyone signed it except the board. Is that per charter?
The charter says, the agreement originally was just the treasurer and the state.
Okay,
And the state thought we were an optional unified county, which we're not. We're a charter county.
right.
I gave it to state, the assistant AG, I believe he was, who was reviewing this at the state level, the charter, and discussed that with him, and we added the executive signature.
Okay.
All county contracts under the charter must be signed by the executive. There is no provision for the board. The board approves.
Correct.
I need a resolution. So in other words, well, your signature of the contract would be the resolution approving
Got it,
this.
Frank. I got you. I'm with you 100%.
And then that's,
So obviously this is a 5-member board. Could this be a 3-member board?
the state recommends 5.
But it could be.
It could be, but we're going with
Great.
5.
Deadline with the state, February 11th next year
Yeah, that we need everything in place before then, though. So we
for
need,
everything.
yeah, we need to have,
Got it. I'm just going through these bullets quick because it's almost 6 o'clock. And commissioners are like keeping their heads up here because this has been a long meeting here. Appointee requirements. Are there any requirements besides what you stated, or can we add more requirements?
the agreement is basically a set agreement by the state land bank authority. And the only changes we made were to accommodate our charter, and like I said, I put changes into the appointment so that this board would have an appointment. I also, they wanted us to create our own ethics provisions. I said, we're just gonna be the counties, okay?
Right.
We're
Yeah,
not
we
gonna
already
create
have
our
all
own.
that. We have
Yeah,
investment-
so
I saw
I
there's
put-
an investment policy. We already have an investment policy.
Right, so I said, we're gonna just, so I put the provision where we create our own ethics position. I say, we're just gonna be under the county ethics.
Great. How many properties are we talking about here?
It's hard to say. The state has 5 properties in the county. Right now, the state's running the land bank for the county. The state land bank covers the county properties because we don't have one. The state may be interested in transferring some of those properties to us. Not all of them. There's 1 or 2 I think they want to keep. They got developments on. They spent significant investments. During this current foreclosure, during the foreclosure process, it probably would have been nice to have this because I could have saved that guy's lot. Some investor ended up buying it. So, you know, now I don't think that, and the other thing is we need to talk to the communities. Some communities have tax foreclosed properties that they may not, they may want to transfer to the land bank that they purchased when we were selling it to them so that we can put it in the land bank and develop it through the land bank and hopefully get state funds that they couldn't get.
Could we get a list just of the total properties and broken down by the property type, agricultural, commercial, and like what we're talking about? I think so the board can see that.
Well, I think at this point, we're really not talking about a lot of properties. I mean, it's,
Well, per the last auction.
oh yeah, for the last auction.
Can we use history as just kind of a benchmark here?
Well, I mean, for the last auction, for the total number of
The
properties.
totals, that's all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Just broken down by class.
Yeah, we had, how many properties do we have in the auction? We had 52 in the auction. 51 sold. There was 1 triangle up in Lenox, which ended up being in a Public Works drain. So Public Works, well, I'll be coming to you in a month or so because Public Works is
They
going to
want
be
it.
buying that.
Okay, that's
So, because when we see something like that, we'll contact, we were going to put that in the land bank, but Public Works, since it's on their drain,
Makes sense.
we'll sell it to Public Works.
So I know budget
We'll
talks.
sell it to the county, but
Budget talks, Steve. Do we have a staff and a budget for this?
not yet. There won't be a staff at this point.
Okay, in a year, 2 years, will there be a staff?
Then we'll, again, you'll have a person on the board when we
But I
meet
mean, this is all gonna still be managed within the treasurer's office.
management treasurer's office, but there will be a person from the board in our office and, you know, like, when, there won't be a lot of effort, it will increase, and as it increases and the funding increases, we're gonna have a budget, obviously, but it won't be.
What I'm saying is are we gonna need employees to manage this internally? We're gonna have a board, but if you're taking in a whole nother animal here.
From what we understand from the state land bank authority is a lot of counties do this internally, kind of like they do with drain commissions. The drain commission doesn't have any employees, they're county employees that work for the drains.
Got it. Just a couple more. I'm just trying to go through my list here. Local control. Why do we want control over the locals? It's in their municipality. They have their own planning departments. They have their own zoning. We can't change any of that. So why do we want to get involved in something like that?
The state sets this up, the state prefers to have the county do it, and then we work with the locals. There's a local representative on the land bank board, and we've already talked to Paige and I've already talked to Warren about this. You know, we can work with the locals.
So who's going to work with the locals?
Again, we work with the locals every day, okay? We were, like I said, Paige and I were at Warren, what, a week or a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago? We were talking to him about tax foreclosures and properties, and we brought this up, and, you know, we have contacts with, all the taxes, most of the taxes we collect are from the locals. So we have daily contact with locals.
So we want to get into this business, but then we also have, you know, there's lending guidelines. There's a whole nother thing here between things that we're going to have to deal with to sell these properties. And we're looking to move towards that some of these properties have had issues and the locals have not been able to do anything with, but we're going to be able to solve these problems.
The state provides assistance to the county land bank.
Okay. Commissioner Perna.
Just a short question. Are there any municipalities that are against this land bank for the county?
When we were at Warren, we didn't hear any objections. They were kind of interested in it.
But there may be some that would say that we're taking away some opportunity for them?
Yeah.
Commissioner Perna, if I may, and Commissioner Sabatini, to kind of follow up with regards to your question with regards to local control, I want to be clear on something. in no way, shape, or form would this entity or authority circumvent any local planning and zoning procedures. That is unilateral responsibility of every single one of the 27 communities in Macomb County, and we not only will follow the strict guidelines of those as is endowed by the state of Michigan, but more importantly, be able to target liabilities in those communities. And I think that's one of the key elements of this. We're targeting underutilized property, bringing in additional resources that the communities right now cannot access to enterprise those sites and to bring them back to active use in the community. We will prescribe and we will facilitate these areas in coordination. That's whether it's residential properties, transitional, mixed use, PUD, and as always, with any and all of these properties and any and all of these endeavors, they will have to follow the strict guidelines of planning and zoning.
So the county will have all liability for all municipalities of property that's in the land bank,
No, the land bank will have liability,
not the county at all.
not the county. That's why it's a separate legal organization, like the drain boards. I use them as an example. It's obviously not a drain board, but they're separate legal entities. They don't have employees. They have budgets. They have, so we're at the beginning of this. So you're asking about budgets and that. We're just gonna be small and then grow.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I knew there'd be a lot of questions today on this one. Doesn't look like Commissioner Zinner is here any longer, so won't recognize her. JP, just really quick, based on what you said in regards to local control. I know in the past we had a Brownstown issue, and it was a remediation. It had to come to the board so that we would not. We had to do something with the tax because it was in a tax improvement zone. It had to come to the board for approval. Will that still be the case on these types of situations in revitalizing property to be reused in the future?
So, Commissioner, what I would say is it would depend on the order of operations. So if there was an element of it that had to go through the county's brownfield authority, that the board has a statutory provision to go over, whether it's to approve a brownfield plan or a remediation strategy, this would not circumvent those processes either.
Got it. Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Maybe this question for JP. Doesn't the state of Michigan have a fund available? I remember reading previously, there's like $100 million fund to support these type of initiatives. If we have the ability to have a brownfield, we have a piece of property, we have the ability to access that $100 million fund, there's an application process and stuff like that, but that's something we'd be able to take advantage of. I'd rather have a county do it rather than every little community, because my town of Washington, they got enough going on. They can't manage it.
Or want to.
Ray Township certainly, a lot of my communities wouldn't be interested in trying to do this themselves. They view it as an expense. Now, whether we want to, do it, that's a different story, but certainly giving it to the locals would not be something I would recommend. But, and I think we should probably do it because it gives us a tool to help redevelop communities that, or not communities, but properties in the communities that might need help. And based on what I've heard, but there's other complications that Commissioner Sabatini's talking about that he's familiar with his business that I'm not so, that gave me something to think about. But generally speaking, I'm still supportive of adopting this program. So, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Van Sickle, did you want to follow up on your last question?
I'll pass and call private.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, seeing no other questions on this item, please vote. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Commissioners, appreciate it.
I know this is going to be a mouthful today for
That's a good thing.
this item in this committee, so.
Turkey, it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, next is correspondence, Central Intake Assessment Center Dashboard Report. Need a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Kraft, supported by Commissioner Wallace. Any questions, commissioners? Seeing none, please vote.
Thank you. Motion passes 12-0.
Okay, next is public participation. This is the opportunity for public participation for those who would like to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any issue. Anyone from the public like to speak? Once? Twice? We'll close public participation. Next is commissioner comments.
I got a long story to tell. Save it for another time.
Save it for tomorrow. Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair.
Save it for tomorrow.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to point out that I noticed our website changed today or at some point last night. And I was just wondering if we could get an update on that project. I don't think any of us was notified that the switch
Actually,
was.
there was an email today that went
Oh,
out.
okay, got it. Thank
announcing
you.
the-
So that
Actually,
must.
it was a soft launch, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
There was a soft launch today, and there'll be a full launch after the first of the year. And they're soliciting comments for people that see something on there to submit to them. And I submitted something, a little point in there today on
Got it.
something I
All right,
noticed.
thank you. Thank
And
you,
I'm
Chair.
sure Commissioner Van Sickle, once he gets on there, will submit some, because he doesn't miss much. And it'll all be good. That's a
Okay, just,
compliment.
all set, Commissioner? Okay, just really quick, remind everybody, budget amendments due tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Please get them to Kyle. Where's Kyle? He was here. So please work with staff to get that done. If you have any questions regarding the budget and you need assistance, certainly reach out to me. I will assist in any way, shape, or form. I think we're good here. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Kraft, supported Commissioner Wallace. Please vote. See everybody.
Thank you. Good job, Mr. Chairman.